Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, May 3rd, and this is the time and place for the regularly scheduled Nevada Gaming Control Board meeting for the month of May 2023. May I ask that you all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, has our agenda been posted in accordance with the open meeting law?
Yes, it has.
All right. Today we'll be covering all items noted on our May 3rd agenda. Madam Secretary, let's proceed with public comment.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters. Anyone wishing to address the board may do so at this time. Comments by each person are limited to 3 minutes as a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. If board members ask questions of the speaker, the time needed to address those questions will not count against the speaker's 3-minute time period. If speakers have any handouts or written copies of verbal comments to provide for the record, please hand them to the enforcement agent seated to your left in Las Vegas or behind you in Carson City.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Pursuant to Nevada State Open Meeting Law, matters brought to the board's attention during public comment cannot be acted upon, but we are happy to hear from all public members wishing to speak, as well as fellow board members during this public comment section of our agenda. Let's go first to Carson City. Is anyone in Carson City wishing to speak to make public comment today? Seeing none, let's go here to Las Vegas. Is anyone in Las Vegas wishing to make public comment today? Seeing none.
Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, I'd just like to recognize Secretary Nicole for her outstanding work.
Mike.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I'd like to recognize our Secretary, Nicole Rupert, for her outstanding work in preparing the agenda for us. She makes us all look really, really good. She's the one that's doing the hard work, so we appreciate that. And Jose Torres, I don't know if Jose is here, but he's also a very special individual. He takes care of the commission predominantly. He was a war veteran from Afghanistan and suffered some great injury to his hearing after an IUD exploded. And I just wanted to publicly recognize Jose for the outstanding work he does each and every month. So thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Any other public comment? I have one I'd like to make that should have made a couple months ago. I want to recognize someone that should have been congratulated properly back in March. Chief Carl Hoffman has worked for the Gaming Control Board since March 1st of 1993, and that's a major milestone. I don't want to make it sound like he's leaving because we're very fortunate enough that he is going to continue to stay with us. But somebody who's been with the board for 30 years should absolutely be recognized for such a noteworthy accomplishment. So we congratulate him on 30 years of state service, 30 years and counting of state service. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you for your service, Chief Hoffman.
Great. If there's no other public comment, we will close the public comment section of the meeting. Madam Secretary, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the prior month's dispositions.
Pursuant to NRS 241.035, this item is the consideration of the approval of the Nevada Gaming Control Board disposition for April 2023 and the meeting minutes for the workshop held on April 12th, 2023.
Should we take those as separate items or can we take them as one motion?
You can take them as one motion.
One motion. Thank you. We've all had the opportunity to review the disposition as well as the minutes from the workshop that was held for regulatory matters on April 12th in accordance with Governor Lombardo's executive order. Are there any questions or corrections to either the disposition or the minutes?
No corrections for me.
And none by me, thank you.
All right, then would either of my colleagues care to make a motion?
Yes, move to approve the prior month's disposition as stated in the record.
Madam Secretary?
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes. Madam Secretary, that brings us now to non-restricted agenda items. Please read into the record non-restricted item number 1.
Non-restricted number 1 is the application of Paul Salem for finding of suitability as a director at MGM Resorts International.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Hendrick, Member Watkins, Member Assad, Secretary Rupert. For the record, Sean McGinnis with Butler Snow, outside counsel for MGM Resorts International. With me to my right is Paul Salem, Chairman of the Board of Directors of MGM Resorts International. Also in the audience goes John McManus, Chief Legal and Administrative Officer and Secretary of MGM Resorts International, and Pat Damba, Senior Vice President, Legal Counsel of MGM Resorts International. If it would be appropriate, I thought it would make sense to have Mr. Salem provide a biography of himself, and then we can open up for questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. McGinnis, and welcome, Mr. Salem.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to be here. And Paul Salem, Chair of MGM Resorts. I grew up in Massachusetts and born in a little town called Worcester, Massachusetts, and went to Brown University and Harvard Business School, and thought my whole life I'd be a professional ice hockey player, but turns out I wasn't that good. And I'm a big Boston Bruins fan, but now that they've lost, I'm rooting for the Vegas Knights. So got involved with MGM in 2018. Prior to that, I founded a private equity firm in Providence, Rhode Island called Avicii Partners, and did that for 28 years. I have 4 amazing daughters, and that's probably the highlight of my life. So other than that, that's about it.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Salem. Do you have anything else, Mr. McGinnis?
I just did want to recognize Supervisor David Bradford, Agent Bridges, Deputy Chief Nathan Allen, and Chief Hoffman in helping process all the investigative work that was done on this application. It's most appreciated.
Great. Thank you. Do we have questions from board members?
No questions, just comment. Mr. Salem has a stellar resume, and it's a pleasure for me to support his application.
Good morning. Can you tell us a little bit about more about Providence Equity Partners and what type of investments were made there?
Sure. It was started in the early 90s with 2 other partners. We all went to Brown University and Harvard Business School. And we were one of the first private equity firms ever to want to specialize in media and communications. So we invested in cellular telephone companies, cable TV companies. We started with $171 million. One of the first investments we ever made was in a cellular telephony company that is today T-Mobile, and that was a really great deal for us. And other investments that we made, we were the founding investor in Hulu, the streaming TV service. And then we've done other deals all around the world, both in Asia, Europe, and in the United States. And we've done over 100 deals over, the 28 years I was there.
Thank you. Well, congratulations on all your success. I don't have any questions or concern related to your background, and I'm happy to support your application.
Thank you.
Just had a couple of questions. Had a couple of questions out of curiosity. You have a entity by the name of NY101 Leasing and Eel Point Aviation. The record reflects that those house an investment portfolio along with the aircraft. Is that actually an investment portfolio, or is that an operating account, if you happen to know?
I own part of an airplane.
Right.
And that's both NY. There's actually 2 airplanes that I share with 4 other people, so there's 5 of us total. And it's really for both business and personal use. And Eel Point Aviation, Eel Point's the house I have. I live on a place called Eel Point, so that's where the name came from. But it's just mostly to run the expenses and operating expenses of the plane.
That's what I figured. Yeah, our materials mention an investment portfolio, but it's an operating account for those 2 entities. That makes sense. Yeah. And Certainly, we appreciate you being here. We understand it's the first time you've been in front of the board. We look forward to you going in front of the Gaming Commission. But of course, we do understand that you have filed numerous applications in quite a number of jurisdictions, and we appreciate your cooperation through the Nevada process. We hope it was as smooth or more smooth than many of the other jurisdictions you had to face. And we appreciate everything you did in fulfilling all of our requirements, which we certainly understand are not a simple task to do with your background and the amount of entities you've been involved in. There's a lot of paperwork, so thank you for that. I didn't have any other questions. If you didn't have anything else, Mr. McGinnis, this would be ready for a motion.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I move to recommend approval of restricted agenda item number 1 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert.
Non-restricted.
Sorry,
Non-restricted.
Non-restricted number 1.
non-restricted number 1.
Very good. Madam Secretary?
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure meeting you. Madam Secretary, please read into the record non-restricted number 2.
Non-restricted number 2 is the application of Stephen Sutherland for licensure as a key executive at Konami Australia Pty Limited.
Good morning, Mr. Light.
Good morning, Chair Hendrick, Member Watkins, Member Assad, Madam Secretary. For the record, I'm Glenn Light with the law firm Lewis Roker. I'm accompanied at the podium by the applicant, Stephen Sutherland, who is the Managing Director of Konami Australia. Also in attendance is Laurie Oak, who is Vice President of Regulatory Compliance for Konami Gaming. To begin, we would like to thank Agent Serenity Simpson for her hard work on the application. She is a consummate professional and a credit to the board. As you're aware, Mr. Sutherland is a long-standing licensee in Nevada with a stellar reputation. He has been a member of Konami Gaming's executive team and served on the board of directors for over 20 years. For the last 6 years, he has served as the CEO and the president of Konami Gaming. And the application today is for licensure as a managing director of Konami Australia, which is a subsidiary of Konami Gaming. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Light, and good morning to you. Thank you
Good
for
morning.
appearing before us today. Would you like to say anything before we jump into questions?
No, I appreciate the opportunity of being here. I think the last time I was in this room was about 20 years ago. So you could proceed with the questions if you like.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Questions from board members?
I have no specific questions. There are no problems or concerns noted in the application, and I'm happy to support the application.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you take me from your time obtaining a Bachelor's of Arts in Sociology and your transition into where you are today?
Okay. When I was at university, okay, I was kind of lost as to what I was going to do. Sociology seemed like a good opportunity. I am very mathematically inclined and I'm very analytical. The reason for the sociology program was because of the data analytics component at that point in time. So I decided to pursue
Okay.
that. Out of that, I went into a sales field for quite some time, starting with Burroughs Corporation, is now Sperry Unisys. From there, I was recruited by my next door neighbor and a startup, a company called Park Technology Corporation. Started out as a DARPA-funded Department of Defense company. We were going into the commercial business. I spent about 15 years there, had a wonderful career, joined the executive management team there. Ultimately, I was here in town in Las Vegas on a convention, and one of the managing partners at Korn Ferry International, and Elliot Gordon, was somebody I knew from Southern California living there. He asked me if I would meet with some executives here in town on an opportunity. I did it as a favor. It's the company today that's called Light and Wonder. At that point in time was Valley Gaming. From there, my career just blossomed here in town, and ultimately was recruited into Konami Gaming. I think it was, I joined July of 2000. And they started recruiting me in the May timeframe. And it was through the Japanese parent, some people, and got introduced to people, and I ultimately joined them. So with that career, started out on the sales side with some changes there. Already at the senior management team level, We went through a number of changes, but, chief operating officer, executive vice president, recently, president, CEO, and I've been on the board of directors, I think, since about 2002 with the company. Small company, startup, kind of my background, that and turnarounds. And it's been a great run, great opportunity. The casino industry offers a lot of opportunity, a group of people, throughout this city. And I've been one of the beneficiaries of that. So that short and sweet, related to my career.
Well, thank you for that presentation and congratulations on all your successes as well. And I don't have any further questions or concerns, and happy to support your application.
Okay, thank you.
His application was filed about a year ago. How have your job duties changed since this new role was added?
With the new role, when KAP was rolled directly under KG, I did pick up a few additional reports. Myself as managing director, the general manager of the facility is somebody that's been at Konami Australia about the same amount of time I've been with Konami Gaming. Knew the person personally, took on a lot of responsibility, but he is the general manager of the facility. He'll be appearing before, the gaming control board here in the future as we go through that entire process. So, picked him up, but because of the distance and what was going on during the pandemic, we formed an executive committee to manage that whole component. So I can't always be there. I travel extensively. I do go there post-pandemic wise, et cetera. But I operate within Konami Gaming. There's about total of 8 direct reports, including Konami Australia, plus that executive committee to operate day to day. We're principally, as a company, even though we're major in distribution services, everybody understands the slot machines, we're an R&D company first, because without that R&D, we don't have product to sell. And then it's all the distribution entities, and then the support with finance, human resources, et cetera, on that side. So Konami Australia, very similar to Konami Gaming here in the US, Konami Gaming in Japan. We have major R&D efforts, and we share those resources across the global enterprise.
Very good. Thank you for that. And certainly we understand that you've been through the licensing process as well multiple times in quite a number of jurisdictions. It's a very hefty file for the number of places that you and have certainly Konami have been licensed. So appreciated reading through your background materials and you cooperating with our agents as we went through your background and updated it from the last time you were here in front of the board and then ultimately in front of the Gaming Commission. So appreciate that from you. I didn't have any other questions. Your background is very stellar, and of course your career is as well. So I have no trouble supporting your application today as a key executive for Konami. If there's no other questions, or Mr. Light, if you don't have anything else, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Please do.
Mr. Chair, I just want to ask one thing while we have you here. Are there any regulations or statutes that you are aware of that would help expedite the approval process for new technological products in your R&D development?
There are opportunities to escalate those technologies into the industry. The only thing I would caution at time on some of more the advanced type technologies, it takes some time to truly get adoption. The adoption is first and foremost, we do have the regulatory environment, but you also have the patrons on the other side. I think if we take a look into the future, et cetera, the mobile phones, the cell phones have changed the entire outlook of the industry. And so as we take a look at, those generations coming in after me, how do we support them? When we have on the agenda in jurisdictions, we know things like iGaming, et cetera, those generations are coming in and they're looking for immediate satisfaction. And so how do you utilize these technology more for the patron experience to make it seamless for the patron, to do what they can do. So on that end, we do have to prepare on all sides. And it behooves us as the suppliers to come in front of, the Nevada Gaming Control Board, et cetera, and to educate internally, from the supplier standpoint. I'm not certain we always do that well in the industry. I was involved years ago in major educational component in Australia is we were installing the system at one of the major casino operators down there. And nobody really wanted to speak with the regulator. We found out when we were there, they were open. And things changed rapidly. So we have to have this truly open dialogue and the willingness to accept. But I think at times what I've seen when I came in the industry, coming from the technology industry, I think our biggest burden, from the supply side, and I said this when I had joined Bally back in '94, is we use at times the regulatory environment as an excuse not to proceed. Okay. But if you educate, I think we can make progress. It may be slow, but we also have to understand that patrons also slowly adopt. So we have to balance that, I think.
Very good. Thank you for that.
Ready for a motion?
Yes, thank you.
Please.
I would move to approve and recommend non-restricted agenda item number 2 for approval as stated therein by Secretary Rupert.
Madam Secretary?
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Hi.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much, and thank you for your comments about the future of the industry. We certainly agree that education and communication is extremely important. Highly regulated industry, but that doesn't mean that we can't be as expeditious and thoughtful as possible when it comes to what the industry is trying to do. So we look forward to working with you and your company to try to achieve that goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate being here.
Thank you. Brings us to non-restricted item number 3, Madam Secretary.
Non-restricted number 3 is the application of United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies doing business at the beach for a non-restricted gaming license.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Hendrick, Member Assad, Member Watkins, and Madam Secretary. For the record, Debbie Cornine with Century Gaming Technologies. With your approval, I have just a very brief overview of this application and the operation.
Please.
As you're aware, this application was filed simply to retain the property's grandfathered rights to non-restricted gaming. We've done this operation numerous times at the property formerly known as the beach. It is Century's intention to place a tent on the property to accommodate up to 16 upright gaming devices. We typically will install a tent at this property because all the buildings there have been demolished. So that's how we intend to continue this operation as we've done in the past. We will start the operation at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we will run for approximately, for a full 8-hour period. At that time, the machines will be shut down. Century will remove all of its devices, and the license will then be surrendered. So this property, we've been doing this since approximately 2008, I believe, and we've been doing them every 18 months to accommodate the county requirements. With that, I am here to answer any questions, and I also believe that in Carson is Mr. Dennis Nylander, if you should have any questions regarding the Marriott operation.
Thank you, Ms. Cornine. And yes, I didn't have any questions for you, but Mr. Nylander, I wanted to ask, we understand that Clark County Business License has weighed in on these waiver approvals. Do you have any updated status on how the county will be treating this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, members of the board, Madam Secretary, Dennis Nylander for the record. Yeah, we've heard from staff level that they want to see, there's no policy yet. There's nothing in writing that I know of, but there's a sense that these grandfathered things can't go on forever. So there is a sense, I think, from the county that, that they may put some restrictions on these in the future. Other than, it's sort of strange because the state requirement for a resort hotel is 2 years for these openings, but for the county, it's 18 months. And that's just the policy they set years ago. But I guess they're sort of rethinking that policy, at least as I understand it, for locations where there hasn't been a lot of activity. And, in the case of Marriott, they have an entitlement to a much larger resort hotel project, which covers about 16 acres. And they have 5 hotels that surround this small property. But at the time they purchased it, it seemed to make sense because they'd like to amalgamate that and then develop a much bigger resort hotel. So the room requirement for them is not an issue because that's what they do. They build rooms, they build resorts. But the grandfather right certainly has value attached to it. And so they just want to preserve that while they try to develop this bigger project. But that's a long answer, Mr. Chairman, to your question. But yeah, the county is definitely rethinking, I think, how they handle these in the future. So.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Mr. Nylander. Do you have anything that you can publicly share with us about, is there anything on the horizon by your client to do something with this piece of property? Are they still entertaining offers? Is there anything you can publicly share?
Sure, they are. They sort of the history of this is that about twice during each of these 18-month periods, they reach out to somebody or somebody reaches out to them, and they've had a number of discussions, but it mostly centers around the overall project that they have entitlements to. And really, they're just trying to find a suitable partner that can help them finance and develop the project. So there've been a number of discussions. They've gotten to points where they're negotiating NDAs and things like that, but they've never really gotten any further than that. And I think it's partly just because of the economy during that time frame. COVID, there's a number of reasons and people not able to get the type of financing that Marriott would want. And so, yeah, so the plan going forward for this particular period is to continue to seek suitable partners who can help them both develop and finance the project.
Thank you. Questions from other board members?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I noticed the no areas of concern in the application. We've already discussed the issue with this being 10 prior grandfather waivers, so I have nothing of any concern or questions to add.
Member Watkins?
Yes, good morning. My question was related similarly to Chair Hendrick's question as it relates to the build out and future plans, and you provided the history as well. I think I'm satisfied with your answer in that you are providing to us that there have been multiple discussions with relation to partners or in development or financing over the course of the years since 2008, and they've gotten close to agreements, but they haven't been able to finalize those agreements. Is that correct?
That is correct, Member Watkins. And, a lot of times these they start out as discussions, then they go to negotiations, and then, there's never really a definitive, oh, we're not doing this because of X. So the company's never really heard that. It's just been, it's the economy or whatever the partners' issues are, other things they're dealing with, and they just sort of go away, and then new ones come up. That's sort of how it's happened, but I hope that answers your question.
Yes, and the plan is to continue to try to build out the property. Is that correct? So that the grandfather clause would not be necessary in the future, or the approval?
Yeah, right. That's exactly the plan. And, with the grandfather being preserved, they could one-off that small piece of property and still, have the benefit of the grandfather for the buyer. But they're focused on the bigger project that's been approved, which is to kind of amalgamate those, well, there's 5 hotels there, plus some other amenities that surround that property. And they're right next to the convention center. So, the plan, the bigger plan that the county has approved is to do a resort hotel there. And so, this little property that has the grandfather, they just want to preserve the value because they don't know exactly what's going to happen with the bigger project.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I
Thank
don't have
you.
any further questions.
Based on the diagram, this piece of land kind of encircles Piero's. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's this piece of land, which was actually it was a former Sport of Kings, Mr. Chairman, which you may remember from back in the day, and it became the beach. So right behind it is Piero's, and then on the other side of that is the big Marriott. And then if you go to the south, there's a courtyard and a Residence Inn, and across the street, across Paradise, is a Renaissance Hotel, and then across Convention Center Drive there is a Spring Hill Suites. So Marriott owns all of that. So the only thing they don't own there is Piero's. But so that was sort of what the entitlements they got from the county were to sort of have the ability to consolidate some of that if they wanted to and build a new resort. So so that's the bigger project that they're focused on. But it made sense at the time when they bought it, that it was just a small piece of land that was sort of right in the middle of all their hotels for that area. And so I think there's close to or over 1,000 rooms they built right there. So I hope that answers your question, Mr. Chairman.
It does, yeah. It's that almost that whole block right there around everything except for Piero's and kind of the southwest corner over by DI. So could be a big piece of land if all put together as you're speaking about. I didn't have any other questions. If you didn't have anything else, Ms. Cornine or
Not,
Mr. Nylander, we'd be ready for a motion.
I just want to extend a thank you to the agent, Narissa Bridges, that worked on this application. She and I have talked numerous times through this process, so I want to say thank you to her.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I move to recommend approval of non-restricted item number 3 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert.
Madam Secretary?
I'm sorry, there is a condition with that also.
Condition?
The condition is that the location is limited to the operation of slot machines for a 24-hour period.
Very good. With that condition, Madam Secretary?
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Nylander.
Thank you.
Brings us to non-restricted item number 4, Madam Secretary.
Non-restricted number 4 is the application of Avicii Patel for licensure as a director at Rancho Mesquite Casino, Inc.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name for the record. And Mr. Alonso, good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr. Chairman. Patel.
Go ahead,
I'll
please.
let Mike start.
Mike, would you like to make introductions?
I will, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Member Watkins, Member Assad, and Executive Secretary Rupert. For the record, my name is Michael Alonso, and I'm here on behalf of Avicii Patel. It's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Patel, who is with you in Las Vegas, and I would like to thank you for allowing me to participate via video in Carson City. It's also my pleasure to introduce to you Gregory Lee, who is sitting in front of you. He is the Executive Chairman of the Board of Directors of Rancho Mesquite Casino, Inc., which does business as the Eureka Hotel and Casino in Mesquite. Mr. Lee wanted to be here today and to meet you, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the board. and also support Ms. Patel's application. As noted by Madam Secretary, Ms. Patel is before the board today as an applicant for licensure as a member of the Board of Directors. Before I turn the podium over to Ms. Patel, I would like to provide the board with some background on the company that is important to this application. In 2015, the board and commission approved a transaction which allowed the company, the Rancho Mesquite Casino Inc. employee stock ownership plan to acquire the equity securities of Rancho Mesquite Casino Inc. The transaction made Eureka Casino the only employee-owned casino in the state of Nevada. At the time, we knew there was another ESOP-owned casino in Illinois, but that casino was sold, so we believe that the Eureka Casino is the only casino in the country that is owned by an ESOP. As a result of that ESOP transaction, there were various agreements that were entered into between the company and the ESOP trustee to comply with the rules promulgated for ESOP ownership by the IRS and the Department of Labor. One of those agreements provides for the governance structure of the company, and that governance structure requires the company to have 5 members of its board of directors, with one of those members being independent. The members of the board of directors include Mr. Lee, Mr. Andre Carrier, who's the chief executive officer of the company and also the ESOP trustee, and they've been licensed in those capacities. The other members are James Barrett, Ms. Patel, who's before you today, and George Smith. And Mr. Smith acts as that independent director. All of those members, with the exception of Ms. Patel, which we hope changes this month, are licensed by the commission. Mr. Lee and the board of directors appointed Ms. Patel to fill a vacancy that was created on the board in 2002, and she's been acting in that role since then, pending her licensing investigation. And finally, before I turn the podium over to Ms. Patel, I would like to recognize your staff. Specifically, we'd like to recognize Senior Agent Butler and Agent Lundeen for their professionalism and their great work on this application. And with that, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I would like to turn the podium over to Ms. Patel to provide the board with her background and her roles at the company.
Thank you, Mr. Alonso. Welcome, Ms. Patel.
Thank you, Chair Hendrick, Member Watkins, Member Assad, and Madam Secretary. As stated, my name is Avicii Patel, and by way of background, I am the Vice President of Experiences and in-house counsel for Eureka Casino Resort, for whom I've been employed since 2015. I've also, as Mr. Alonso mentioned, been serving on the board of directors of Rancho Mesquite Casino Inc. since my appointment in February of 2022. I was born in Haroldwood, England. But the moment I was born, my father wanted my sister and I to live in America. And so upon graduating from Queen Mary University of London with my law degree, I was off to America to pursue a master's in intellectual property law from Cardozo in New York. From there, a chance conversation on the sidelines of my cousin's lacrosse game with Greg Lee has in large part led me to this moment. If you said to my 8-year-old self, someday I would be helping to lead a casino resort company, I would not believe it. But with that said, I am absolutely grateful that life did not go as planned. In my role at Eureka, I am fortunate to lead the Human Resources Department, retail, community relations, design, administration, and special projects and development. I also have a role in leading the departments in our New Hampshire property. And as such, my day-to-day really centers around weekly meetings with the leadership team of those departments, checking in on day-to-day operations, as well as setting projects and objectives for the teams. I also oversee generally the legal and risk management needs of the business, and then I serve on the ESOP Administrative Committee. The ESOP Admin Committee, their purpose is to manage the administrative functions of the ESOP and assist the trustee in its role as trustee of the ESOP. And so largely, I'm usually overseeing the census work from which they populate the annual statements, as well as distributions for our eligible participants. In all of those roles, I report to Andre Carrier, who is our CEO and trustee of the ESOP, as Mr. Alonso mentioned. And I have also been serving on the board for the past year. It's been an absolute privilege to advance the interests of our employee owners in that capacity. Sorry, I'm talking too fast. And along with working collaboratively with the fellow board members to advance the broader strategy of the business under the capable leadership of our executive chairman, Greg Lee. During my time with Eureka, the business has probably gone through its most sobering low, as well as its most promising high. The low came at the hands of the global pandemic, and the high combination of the strength of the return of the business in Nevada, as well as the successful acquisition and development of our newest casino in New Hampshire, the Brook. On a final note, I would be remiss if I did not say that I am extremely grateful for the opportunity to be considered for licensing. It has been serving the men and women of Eureka and the over 700 employee owners has been one of the greatest honors of my young career. And I am so grateful that I've had the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to serve. Thank you for your time and for allowing me to introduce myself and share a little bit about the company that I'm so very proud of.
Thank you for that. Do we have questions from the board members?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you for being here. That was an excellent presentation. If you could maybe just elaborate a little bit on how this employee stock ownership trust works. It's probably a new concept to many people.
Yeah, so we became employee owned. The ESOP was formed in 2015. And as such, every employee within the company receives shares, and I say that in quote marks, based on their salary divided by the total salaries in the company. So the easy math, my background is law, not mathematics. If your salary was $10 and the total salaries of the company was $100, you'd get 10% of the shares of the company. Because we're not a publicly traded company, each year we hire a third-party valuation firm that determines the value of the company based on how the company is doing. And then that sets the value of each employee's accounts. That is then put forward as a long-term retirement benefit. So oftentimes when an employee leaves the company, depending on their account balance, they'll start to receive distributions within 5 years. And then it's up to them to put it into an IRA or some sort of equivalent so that they don't have to pay taxes on it.
Great. Thank you for that. I have no questions. The application by Senior Agent Butler was stellar. She noted no areas of concern. I have no questions, and congratulations on your success. You're quite remarkable, given your age and so forth. So keep on going. You're doing great. We appreciate.
I'm enjoying it. That's the main bit.
You're a good example for many young women.
Oh,
so thank you.
Very good. Member Watkins?
Good morning.
Morning.
That was an excellent presentation. So thank you for that. It was very personalized and passionate. So I appreciate that. And congratulations on all of your successes. And we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So with that, I did have a couple of questions just following up on what Member Assad asked. How was the decision made to transition into an employee-owned company? Because it initially wasn't, right?
It was not. And to be honest, I was not part of those discussions. I think those discussions had occurred prior to my joining of the company, and this transaction actually happened as soon as I joined, pretty much.
Okay.
So.
Mr. Lee, do you want to step up and answer that question? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board. Greg Lee here to introduce myself. You know, the question of how we decided to become an ESOP, I think was born from our experience of being a family business for over 20 years, and then really surviving the global financial crisis. Many of you might not know Mesquite, but one of the properties, and there were 5 at the time, closed, and we saw just a tremendous kind of damage to the economy. You know, we probably didn't know before, but many of our employees had multiple jobs, and sometimes these jobs were at different companies. So when one property closed, it wasn't just they lost those jobs, but some of those people ended up moving from the town. And so part of our view of how we could make Eureka stronger and how we could make the city of Mesquite stronger was to try to expand ownership so that we would create both stakeholders who owned a piece of this property, but also had a love and desire to make sure they maintained Mesquite as a community. So really, that was the genesis of the idea to in a sense to sell the operating company to the employees. And Avicii joined the company really as an intern, helping us in the legal side of, and again, we were the first ESOP in Nevada, and helping us understand all the things that we would need to do. We had tremendous counsel from Mike Alonso and other attorneys, but this has been a process. This has been a process of really transforming our business from a family business to what now all of us are proud of calling an employee-owned family business. And I would say that Avicii joining the board, she really replaces my brother, and that is part of our transition from a family business to an employee-owned family business. Avicii's background and coming from a family business, someone who is a lawyer, who loves design, who knows how to roll up her sleeves and bus tables, help out whenever we have a big weekend, and we can, almost not survive without, our management helping like that. She really is an amazing addition to this company and part of our succession plan, so that this construct, this ESOP construct, is something that can be strong and lasting. And what I would share is that really the first acquisition in an ESOP is sometimes the most important. We pay down debt. It's really like a leverage buyout, and we create value for the employees. Paying down debt maybe the same way as you'd buy a home, but with new people coming and new employees who are joining, it's really growth which helps ensure that retirement account continues to have value, and it provides more for the new generations who come. And so this project, the Brook in Seabrook, New Hampshire, it's a former Greyhound racing track that had fallen into disrepair before we found it. And at that time, it had pari-mutuel betting, so that's a very small income stream, which was declining every year. And it just had the potential for, they had charitable gaming, so you could run table games for a fee, and you give away roughly 1/3 of the win. And that was those two revenue streams, and just an idea is what the Brook has become. And really from Avicii's and our CEO Andre Carrier's vision of what this could be, you'd be very shocked that the entire 40,000 square feet have been remodeled. It looks like a casino that all of us who've been in this business are proud of. So that's sort of the full circle. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Well, thank you for providing that expanded background. It certainly is a unique company, and you all seem very proud of it. If I can share, I have another question.
Please.
Ms. Patel, our materials also provide that you invested in the EB-5 Immigrant Investor Pilot Program. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So as I mentioned in my intro, it was always my father's vision for his daughters to end up in America, and the EB-5 was a vehicle to do that. So my initial investment, we had hired, part of the application process, you hire an economist to help you evaluate the investments. And at the time, interestingly, it was the SLS Casino when I was applying, and Voodoo Barbecue Grill, which was a new restaurant concept by the Five Guys founders. So I picked that one. And unfortunately, due to a series of reasons, the president not being invested and spending time on other brands, etc., Voodoo failed. And so they transferred my investment into Twin Peaks.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for providing all of the background information. I was just kind of curious about that. I don't have any further questions. Sure.
I just wanted to know how much of your time is spent on working with the brook.
You know, it's 50-50 at this point. I actually flew back yesterday from New Hampshire, and I'm taking the red eye back because we're opening our first restaurant on property this week. So today is the test day. But yeah, I fly back and forth depending on the needs of the businesses in either place.
Got it. Thank you. And along with the other board members, I was very impressed with your application and certainly your cooperation with our agents as you go through this licensing process, which is never easy to do. There's a lot of digging, but we appreciate your cooperation, and we try to make it as easy as possible. But of course, it is a strictly regulated industry, as you understand.
I do. Thank you.
Very good. I didn't have anything else. If you didn't have anything else, Mr. Alonso, we'd be ready for a motion.
I don't. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Do we have a motion on this matter?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I would move to recommend approval of non-restricted item agenda number 4 as read into the record by Ms. Rupert.
Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alonso. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Brings us to non-restricted item number 5.
Non-restricted number 5 is the application of Vincent Sadusky for finding of suitability as an officer at International Game Technology PLC.
Good morning, Mr. Burnett.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Member Watkins, Member Assad. Very nice to see you. Madam Secretary, nice to see you. My name is A.G. Burnett with the law firm of McDonald Carano here today, representing IGT and Mr. Vincent Sadusky. First off, thank you, Mr. Chairman and the board for waiving his appearance. He was last here in January of last year. He's got a long record with both IGT and the Gaming Control Board, as your records reflect. In July 2010, he was an independent director and member of the audit committee. And then when he moved to actually become the audit committee chair, that required his licensure in 2015. And then he came in January of last year, 2022, as executive director. And now he is before you, virtually, I guess, as CEO. Well known to the board. I didn't have any other affirmative presentation than that, Mr. Chairman, other than to thank Ms. Julie Petronzi for her good work on this case.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett, and certainly agree with you that Mr. Sadusky has been in front of the board quite a number of times, as well as numerous other licensing matters, and as you stated, was back in front of the board for a full investigation only about a year ago. So I didn't have any questions regarding the application. Are there other questions or comments from other board members?
None by me. This is pretty straightforward. No areas of concern or questions on my part.
Thank you, Member Saad.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't have any questions or concerns given Mr. Sadusky's familiarity with the board and licensing history, so I'm happy to support the application.
Thank you, Member Watkins.
Very good. So this item is ready for a motion.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I would move to recommend approval of non-restricted item agenda number 5 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert.
Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burnett. Bringing us to non-restricted item number 6.
Non-restricted number 6 are the applications of Philip Lee for finding of suitability and or licensure as a director and or officer as noted on the agenda.
Good morning, Mr. Gutwald. How are you?
Wonderful. Good morning. Dennis Gutwald with the law firm of McDonald Carano. With me is Philip Lee. First, I'd like to pass on my sincere thanks to agents Martirosian and Molitz for their help with this investigation. With your permission, I'll let Mr. Lee tell you a little bit about himself and address an issue that came up during the investigation, and then we can open it up for questions.
Very good. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Firstly, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here today. So thank you very much for allowing me the time to appear in front of you. I'd also just like to thank Agent Martirosian for working so diligently on my application. Very much appreciated over these last weeks and months of the application process. A little bit about myself to start with. It turns out I'm probably the second English person that you've had in here this morning. I thought I was going to be the only one, but it turns out I'm the second. So I was born in the UK a number of years ago, born in a place called Wirksworth, just outside a town in the centre of England called Derby. We worked for sort of a number of years in the UK before moving over to the US only about 10 months ago. So a little bit about my work history. Worked for TCS John Huxley for 3 years. It's about 3 years now. 2 years of those, that career was in the UK. I joined in August 2020, right in the middle of COVID, as the CFO for the group. So as I say, spent 2 years there before moving over to the US back in July of 2022. And at that point in time, I took the dual role of Managing Director for the Americas, excuse me, and also CFO for the group. So I've been, as I say, here for 10 months with my family. Prior to working for TCS John Huxley, I've had probably 30 plus years within the manufacturing and technology operations businesses within the UK. Started working, first main role was working for a company called National Grid Company, who run the high voltage electricity transmission system in the UK, before moving on to Rolls-Royce Aerospace. Spent about 10 years there as well. Before then moving on to another company, an AIM listed, which is small cap listed in the UK, engineering company. So all of those roles, really financial roles, moving along on the senior financial side for my career. So that sort of really covers my sort of career biography inside. I also just wanted to raise just one reporting issue that came up during the investigation. And that relates to a situation back in September 2020 and the notification of my appointment for both TCS John Huxley America and TCS John Huxley Europe. At that point in time, there was a notification delay and it went over the 30-day notification period. We had a particular situation with our sort of compliance officer at the time that came to light. So those notifications did come in late. However, what we've done since then is really to look into the compliance side and the team and the processes. Back in the early part of 2021, we employed a new compliance manager. We've also strengthened the team around that compliance manager, as well as strengthening both our processes and making those more robust. And that was included in a letter that we put forward to the board back in March of this year. So essentially, by strengthening both the processes and the team, we believe we've mitigated the impact of that sort of situation or set of circumstances ever happening again. So just like to say thank you very much for your time and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And thank you for addressing the issue of the late filed applications. As you understand, we take such matters very seriously and do appreciate the fact that you've said that you've taken some remedial measures and the company's taken some remedial measures and beefed up their compliance. I will say, though, that one of your applications was 277 days late. One of the other applications for director was 336 days late, and the deputy director application was 224 days late. So it's not like we're talking about a matter of weeks. It was really a failure of the system, which I think you've addressed and hopefully tried to remedy. That does bring us to a situation where there could be disciplinary matters, but I think you're addressing the situation and remedying it is very important for me, more so than a fine or something that doesn't address it. It's really, to me personally, measures been put in place to remedy the past and look forward to the future. So appreciate that you've already done that before you got to the board today.
Absolutely. I'm clearly disappointed that we got to that situation, taking those remedial measures.
Great. Questions from board members?
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for being here. And that was the one area of concern that I had as noted as well. So I'm satisfied with the remedial measures you've taken and satisfied that your application will sail through. So I'm happy to support your application.
Member Watkins.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for your presentation and for affirmatively addressing the late application issues. I appreciate that. Can you talk a little bit more about what processes have been in place to ensure that doesn't happen again in the future?
Yes, of course. Well, firstly, I think me being here also helps as well. But prior to that, obviously based in the UK and with my CFO sort of hat on as well, I work very closely with the compliance manager and the compliance team that are here. We've put in place priority trackers now that mean that we do have a hands-on view of every single application that's going through for every single member of our company, including the companies within the group as well. So whether it's an individual or a company application, you know, where those applications are, what the key dates are, what is required in order to fulfill that application. We have company briefings with key individuals so as they are fully aware as well of what is required of them and when it's required of them. And at the same time, we have weekly status updates. So I actually get together very regularly with the compliance team to understand where we are, whether we've got any roadblocks, particular issues, concerns that with regards to information that is required. So we've put all of those in place. And as I said, we've also put some additional support in place. So new members of the compliance team.
Are these all new measures, or some of these something that was carried over from before?
Most of them, 2 or 3 of them are new, but at the same time, it was a case of addressing the existing measures and making sure that they were robust and fit for purpose. So it was really looking into the existing ones as well and addressing those.
Okay. And I just had one more question for you. Thank you for addressing that. It seems there was a lot of movement in 2020 with one company, right? With one parent, within one parent company, a lot of promotions or role changing. Can you explain that a little bit?
2020. So sorry, was this the Belgravia?
Tricorn Group.
Oh, Tricorn Group. Okay, so the Tricorn Group was my the previous company I worked for. So I just want to make sure I address the concern that you have. So I worked for that company for about 11 years. I joined in January 2009. I was CFO and company secretary for that business throughout that period. And I left that business back in, well, I handed my notice in at that business back in January of 2020, which was just before COVID hit. I worked my 6-month notice period through the first part of COVID and then joined TCS John Huxley in right at the end of July, beginning of August 2020, right in the center of COVID. I'm not quite sure I'm addressing your concern on Tricorn, but Tricorn was the company I previously worked for. I had a number of directorships within Tricorn. All of the subsidiaries within Tricorn, I was also a sort of director of for account signing purposes and company secretary. So I resigned those positions when I left Tricorn and joined TCS John Huxley.
Okay, and it looks like these positions were you held these positions at the same time of one another.
That's
so
right.
That kind of explains.
That's right. They were all subsidiaries within the group of Tricorn. We were a relatively small senior management team, so there were really myself and the chief executive who were the main directors on those subsidiary businesses. But they were all individual operating businesses amalgamated into the Tricorn group.
Okay.
There were some name changes around that time as well as the branding took place.
Yeah, and just to be clear, it's not necessarily a concern. I was just curious because it just seemed kind of out of the ordinary, but happy to support your application.
Thank you.
Very good. And as for me, I had no concerns with your application itself. Certainly you have stellar credentials and a stellar background, and appreciate you appearing before us. I believe this is the first time that you've been in front of the Gaming Control Board here in Nevada, so welcome on that. And certainly we'll take your word on the fact that the compliance process has been addressed, and we won't be having any late filed applications again from not only you, but your company in general, and appreciate your word on that on the record.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Gutwald, did you have anything else?
Nothing more to add.
Very good. If there's no other questions or comments from board members, this matter is ripe for a motion.
Thank you, Chairman. I would move to recommend approval of non-restricted agenda item number 6 for approval and as stated in the record by Secretary Rupert.
Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Henry?
Aye. The motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Bringing us to non-restricted item number 7.
Non-restricted number 7 is the application of Leisure Gaming, Inc., doing business as Leisure Gaming SRO, doing business at Lucky's Casino USA Parkway for a non-restricted gaming license. It is also the applications of Chip Merritt for licensure as a key employee as noted on the agenda.
Mr. Gutwald.
Hello, Dennis Gutwald with the law firm of McDonald Carano. With me today is Ryan Albright and Chip Merritt. And thank you for granting them the allowing them to appear by video. With your permission, I'm going to have Ryan tell you a little bit about the application, and then Chip tell you a little bit about herself, and then we can open it up for questions.
Thank you. Please proceed. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Dennis. Madam Secretary, Chair Hendrick, members Watkins and Assad. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks again for allowing us to attend remotely. My name is Ryan Albright, and I'm the VP of Operations and a key employee for Leisure Gaming. A little bit about the new location. Well, first, I'd like to thank Agent Audrey Wilson, who was worked with us about 2 years ago when we opened 3 other locations, and she's always a pleasure to work with. This new location will be our 10th non-restricted location. It is currently under construction, along with a truck stop that will be owned and operated by Pilot, and it will be under the name of 19, which is a smaller truck stop that they are now building, and it will have roughly 50 slot machines, slots only, as in roughly 1,700 square feet. So it'll be very similar to our other 9 locations in size and what it has. Do you have any questions about the location that I can answer?
What did you say the name of it again is? The Pilot Travel Center? What do they call it?
It's 19 Truck Stop or Travel Stop, something like that. It's 19.
19. Yeah, thank you. Questions from board members regarding the operation?
No questions. Thank you for being here. And the report is well done. There were no areas of concern mentioned in the application report. I have no questions or concerns. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you.
Member Watkins about the operation?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't have any questions or concerns related to the application. It was clean to me, and I'm happy to support it.
Very good. Ms. Merritt.
Well, I'd like to take a moment to introduce Ms. Merritt. Chip Merritt. We were fortunate enough to bring Chip on board when we took over the operations of the Love's Casino in Fernley in the fall of 2021. She was the existing manager at the time, and she stayed on board and quickly proved to me that she was a very special employee and a very special manager. Within 6 months, I promoted her to the position of managing both the Loves in Fernley and our Pilot Casino in Fernley, which we've had for almost 30 years. And she's done an incredible job over the last year and 4 months managing both properties. And then when the opportunity came up for this new location, she quickly volunteered to manage it, maybe reluctantly, but she did volunteer to manage it and also pursue licensing as a key employee, which was a big deal for us because with her licensing, it will allow me to reduce the number of locations that I oversee from the current 9 down to 7, and she will oversee the 2 locations that she currently manages, as well as this new property. So she'll oversee the other 3. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Chip Merritt.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Merritt.
Good morning. As stated, I'm Chip Merritt, and I'm currently employed with Leisure Gaming as a manager. I began my career in the gaming industry in 2014 with Faraway Casino under Bill Rodriguez in Fernley, Nevada. I started on the drop team. And it was then that I found a love for drop and count and for the gaming industry. I soon found myself filling in for the manager on the weekends. And during this time, I learned to work on slot machines, oversee casino and paperwork. And when the Four-Way opened up their third location in Ely, my manager received a promotion and I began to oversee that location on my own. In 2021, as Ryan had stated, Leisure Gaming purchased the Loves Casino location that I was managing, and I began working for Ryan Albright as manager of his new Lucky's location. And in 6 short months, he entrusted me to run his first location, is the Fernley pilot. And I'm very excited about the opening of this new property under my supervision at USA Parkway. I'll be spending, roughly between 8 to 20 hours at each location every week. I want to be able to rotate my time at each location to make sure that everything's being handled. I'll be responsible for overseeing employees and managers, as well as making sure that all gaming regulations are being followed at each location. I'm very humbled to have been chosen by this company to become a key employee and take on more responsibility and to work for the success of leisure gaming in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anything else from you, Mr. Gutwald?
Nothing else.
Very good. Questions from board members?
None by me. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations on working your way all the way up to general manager and key employee. You must be a true asset to the company.
Thank you. It's been really fun.
Can you tell me what your time commitment will be spread between the operations?
So as I stated, I would like to spend at least one day at each property every week. Just to make sure that everything's being run properly, check paperwork, check in on managers and employees. And then as needed, I know that certain locations will also need my help with shifts and other things as well. So it all kind of depends on the needs of each location and managers as well as employees. And I'd also like to spend some time helping at the corporate office as well to make sure that things are handled there as well.
Great. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's important that you have enough time to cover all the operations. So I'm pleased to hear that you've got a plan of action.
Yeah, and they're all
One
very
other
close
question.
together.
Without putting you on the spot, a name like Chip, where did Chip come from?
It was from my grandmother, actually. She there was a girl whose nickname was Chip, and she decided that that was going to be my name.
That's great. Very nice. I didn't have any other questions. Your application is very well in order, and I also congratulate you on moving up the corporate ladder and your success. So with that, if there's no other questions, we would take a motion on this item.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Hendrick. I would move to recommend approval of non-restricted agenda item number 7 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert, with the condition that the location is limited to the operation of slot machines and that the surveillance system must be inspected and approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board enforcement within 60 days of issuance of the state gaming license and thereafter be maintained at or above the standard that is approved.
Great. Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to Agent Carlick Lopez as well on this investigation. He's new, but he's a pleasure to work with.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Gutwald. Thank you. Bringing us to non-restricted item number 8.
Non-restricted number 8 are the applications of Pioneer Holdco LLC and Pioneer Opco LLC to pledge membership interests as noted on the agenda. I believe we have a disclosure on this item.
Yes, thank you, Madam Secretary. I just want to disclose that I own shares of JP Morgan, and it's not in a trust. It's not in an index fund or a mutual fund. They're actual shares that I own. And however, though, I believe that the independence of my judgment, that of a reasonable person in my position, would be affected by this situation. And I therefore intend to participate. I just wanted to disclose that fact on the record.
Very good. Good morning, Ms. Vermees.
Good morning, Chair Hendrick, Member Watkins, Member Assad, Madam Secretary. For the record, Sonia Vermees from the law firm Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck. And also here this morning, Robert Brimmer. He's the Chief Financial Officer for the Venetian Group of Companies. If I could, Chair Hendrick, I'll give you just a brief overview of the applications before you.
Yes, please.
Pioneer OpCo LLC and Pioneer Holdco LLC are both registered intermediary companies in the chain of ownership of Venetian Las Vegas Gaming LLC. Those entities entered into a first lien credit agreement back in November with certain lenders and issuing banks, and JP Morgan Chase Bank as the administrative agent. That credit agreement provides OpCo as borrower with a senior secured first lien revolving credit facility in an aggregate principal amount of $100 million. The revolver is guaranteed by Holdco and the subsidiaries of OpCo, and it has a 5-year maturity. The revolver is also secured by all of the assets, as is typical of the loan companies, including the members' interests in OpCo and in Venetian Las Vegas Gaming. And that's the application before you for approval of those equity pledges. With that, we are happy to answer any questions that you have. And we'd also like to thank Agent Tina Logan. As always, she's super meticulous and organized, and we really enjoy working with her. I also wanted to do a call out. I see in the audience this morning, George Marcantonis, and we congratulate him for his appointment to the commission. We think that's a great move, and we look forward to working with him in the future. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Vermees. Mr. Brimmer, nice to see you again. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
I didn't have any questions about the application. It's pretty straightforward on actually what you're trying to do. I did have a question though, however, about probably something that you've talked about before. If you could walk me through just Pioneer Topco down to the Venetian, and primarily what I'm trying to figure out for myself is where does Midco fit into the relationship?
Well, I'll start. Mr. Brimmer
Please.
can jump in. And I've got my chart because there are a lot of entities and it's hard to keep track. So I'm going to start with Pioneer Topco LP. That's our registered private investment company. And right below that is Pioneer Midco LLC, which initially when that entity was put in, it was just an intermediary company. It had no activity. But as part of that financing in November of 2022, that's the company that did the $500 million issuance to JP Morgan. And those funds, if you recall, were used for the distribution up the chain. So then below Midco, you have Pioneer Holdco, which, as I stated, that's the guarantor of this revolver. It's also the guarantor of the loan to Sands. Below that is Pioneer OpCo LLC. That's the entity that's the borrower on both of those loans. It's also the tenant on the Avicii lease and was the main party that was part of the original transaction to acquire the Venetian. And below that, you have Venetian Las Vegas Gaming LLC, and that's our licensee.
Got it. And does Midco still hold the funds, or was that distribution complete and total out of Midco?
The distribution was done. It was done in November of 2022. It was just over 619 million. And then also in December of 2022, there was also a distribution made to all of the employees. I think it was 1,500 per employee.
Very good. Thank you. Other questions from board members?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Hendricks. So the 1,500 to the employees was regardless of seniority. It was part-time, full-time. Everybody got the 1,500. Am I correct in assuming that?
Isn't it? I think it was full-time flex employees.
Full-time. What about the part-time?
This distribution did not cover part-time team members. It was all full-time and full-time flex.
Okay, very good.
Just over 7,000 team members.
Great, thank you. And the loan to from JP Morgan, it's at about 5.5%, somewhere in there.
Correct. It's a variable loan that's SOFR plus a spread, starts around 375 basis points and then escalates over time.
With the Fed rate plus prime and
It's somewhere in that range right
fluctuates.
now.
Okay.
Correct.
And it is a confusing chart. I had to spend quite a bit of time with the Deputy Chief Teggio, who did an excellent job, and also Chief Kaufman, who did a great job of explaining it to me. And trying to explain this to my daughter, who's first-year law student, wanting to get into corporate law and administrative law, the overall umbrella approach to structuring an organization such as this with all these sub-companies and holding companies and subsidiaries and intermediaries, I guess number one would be for some tax purposes. Is that correct?
I would assume so. Also, the private investment company that regulation 15C structure, that's to accommodate entities such as Apollo that are made up of a bunch of funds, and certainly the applicants, and neither the board wants to license or register all of these various limited partners. So that's why it's set up that way, with the voting control and then the economic non-voting interests of the limited partner funds, if you will. And then, yes, you have various intermediary companies going down to the licensee so that you have the flexibility to do the financings as we've done here.
Great. And then there's also the issue of liability. It insulates from potential legal liability, I presume. Would that be another factor?
I think that's one of the basis for forming limited liability companies, certainly.
And then with Pioneer Topco GP LLC, there are 8 board managers that control that entity. Is that
That's correct. And all of them have filed applications. So you're going to be seeing them over the next few months as they come before you for their suitability applications.
And if we were to try to follow the flow of money, starting with the Venetian, and then it would go up to Pioneer Opco, and also sharing in that would be Pioneer Holdco.
Yes.
And then that would be it, correct?
No, it would keep going up to go to the funds.
Well, there would
That's
be a
the-
distribution of dividends and so forth, but
Yes.
as far as the capital that flows up the chart, how far up would it go?
Well, it depends on where it's going. If it's to pay debt service on the $500 million note, it would go up to the midco level and then go out to lenders. If it's a situation where we're funding a dividend to our investors, it goes all the way up the chain. Then will be put up to the various co-investor buckets that you see on your chart, as well as the Apollo LPs.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Member Watkins.
Good morning.
Morning.
Ms. Burmese, it's nice to see you again. It always truly impresses me how well you memorize information. I don't see you looking at notes, or you memorize the numbers and the names of the companies and all of that. So
A little secret, I was a drama major in college.
okay. Yeah, it's very impressive. So thank you for your presentation. And Mr. Brimmer, I'm getting very familiar with your face. I've been here since the purchase of the Venetian, so I'm familiar with this matter. And it may look kind of or sound kind of confusing, but this is a pretty typical application here. And I don't have any questions or concerns, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you.
And I as well appreciate your information and background on the structure, but again, didn't have any questions regarding the actual application of the pledge of the membership interest. So if there's no other questions, or if you didn't have anything else to add, we'd be ready for a motion.
Great. Thank you, Chairman Hendricks. I would move to recommend approval of non-restricted agenda item number 8 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert.
Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Bringing us to non-restricted item number 9.
Non-restricted number 9 is the application of John Ferrucci for finding of suitability as an officer at Full House Resorts, Inc.
Good morning.
Good morning again, Chair Hendrick, Member Watkins, Member Assad, Madam Secretary. Sean McGinnis with Butler Snow on behalf of Full House Resorts. With me to my right is John Ferrucci, Senior Vice President, Chief Operating Officer, and want to make sure that we recognize Agent Comachisto and Supervisor Doyle for their work in processing Mr. Ferrucci's investigation. I thought I'd hand it over to him to give a short bio of his background and also sort of describe what it is he does with Full House Resorts, if that works for you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. McGinnis, and welcome and good morning to you, Mr. Ferrucci. We appreciate you appearing before us. I believe this is the first time you've been in front of the Nevada Game
It is. It's the
Control
first
Board.
time I've had the pleasure of being in front of the Nevada board. I've been licensed as a suitable person in Mississippi for 27 years, and I just got my fourth one at the 9-year stint. So I'm in for 36 in Mississippi. So we've done this before, but my first time in Nevada. So thank you for your consideration.
Absolutely. Please tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, born and raised in New Jersey, but I had a bachelor's degree in marketing and master's degree in education. So I was an educator first. And I had a pretty stellar career as an educator in New Jersey, and I quit it all to become a blackjack dealer in Atlantic City in 1980. Everybody thought I had lost my mind, but here I stand 43 years later. You know? But I had a great career. I actually grew up in the business with the Harrah's organization. I left Harrah's in 1989 and went to the Bahamas, and we ran a little casino that was managed by Carnival Cruise Lines and Carnicon Hotels together on Grand Bahama Island. And while I was there, I was recruited by Lyle Berman and his team to open up 2 grand casinos on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. And I had to literally go to an atlas and see where Gulfport, Mississippi was, because I was from New Jersey. And but we got there and we had a great experience, opened 2 wonderful properties there. And my career has just blossomed up until the point where I was, I met the folks who were developing the Silver Slipper Casino, which is where I am now. And it was Paul Albanese, so I'm sure it may be known to you all. And we were with Casino Magic in Biloxi when he was with Pinnacle, and then we left and we developed this Silver Slipper project. We did a groundbreaking in January of 2005, and in August of 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit, and everything on the Gulf Coast came to a complete stop. 12 casinos on the coast were all out of business. What our little Silver Slipper Casino project was fully insured, and so we plowed it back in, and we were the first casino to be actually built land-based in the state of Mississippi. So I'm the only general manager that property has ever known, from the groundbreaking in 05 until today. I had the pleasure of putting together a team, and most of my team, believe it or not, is still with me all this time. We've had a real great run. So our Full House Resorts company, Dan Lee is our president and CEO, who I'm sure you know. This has been a kind of a transition year for us, 2022. We had 5 casinos. We now have 6. We opened the 6th property just this past February 17th in Waukegan, Illinois. And that in part was where I come in as being put forward as the chief operating officer, because we have 6 properties that are all very diverse. They were all purchased at different times. No 2 are alike. Every set of circumstances is completely unique. So we have myself with the Silver Slipper in Mississippi. And then we have the new one that just opened in Waukegan, Illinois. That's called the Temporary right now, but it will be the American Place Casino when the permanent facility is open. We have one in Indiana, the Rising Sun Casino, the Rising Star Casino in Rising Sun, Indiana. And then in Colorado, we have the Cripple Creek. Colorado is Bronco Billy's, which is being transformed into what's going to be called the Chamonix. A tremendous expansion of that project there. And then we have two properties in Northern Nevada, and that's why I'm here with you today. We have the Grand Lodge Casino, which is in the Hyatt up in Incline Village and Lake Tahoe. And then we have the smaller one in Fallon, Nevada, called Stockman's Casino, which is out by the Air Force Base. So we just knew we were at the point now where we were growing at such a rate that it was important for us to expand our ability to communicate properly. And that being the case, and I had such a strong operational background, and Dan Lee is so preoccupied with growing our company and doing all those things that a president and CEO of a publicly traded company has to do. He said, this makes sense, and he brought it to our board, and they all agreed that I could serve in that capacity. I could maintain being the general manager of Silver Slipper Casino, because that property, I hate to admit it, but it runs very well without me. But I have a great, strong team that's been with me for a very long time. So I spend a portion of my time every day really speaking with the other general managers. So the other general managers report to me now, and then I report to Dan Lee. But we communicate daily between text and emails, and thank God for Google Meet and Zoom meetings and things of that nature. You know, we can stay in touch. My goal is to get to see all the properties twice a year. You know, so when it's not snowing, Mississippi is the only place we have a casino that doesn't snow. So I had to wait for things to thaw out before I can go see the others. But we communicate on a regular basis, and I have a great team. I spent the last year going to Waukegan, Illinois, 12 or 13 times actually. I put the team together there. We got infrastructure started. We purchased all the gaming equipment. I got all the directors hired. We finally hired the general manager, and once we were satisfied with him, then I was able to, you know, concentrate back on my primary duties. And they got off to a sluggish start due to staffing. Staffing's been difficult. They needed 800 employees, opened with 400, but it's growing, and it's every week their numbers are increasing as their staffing increases. So we're on a roll. The Silver Slipper Casino and the Full House Resorts are just moving forward. I'm looking to do an expansion of our property in the next 2 or 3 years, and we'll continue to grow. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and explain that to you.
Very good. Thank you for your background on that. Do we have questions from board members?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Hendrick. Just curious, I think you touched on it a little bit, but could you go into how many hours or days that you're going to have between the Mississippi property, Northern Nevada, and
Right.
so forth? It's quite a bit to manage.
It is. Fortunately, I have very strong general managers and operating committees in each of the properties, so that helps tremendously. My personal goal is to, first of all, communicate with them virtually several times each week. But I plan on actually seeing each property once every other month. So I want to make 8 trips during the year. So there's 4 trips I have to make. I want to go twice, once a month. So I'll probably spend 4 or 5 days a month traveling to one of those 4 locations. You know, because the 2 in Northern Nevada are very close. You can see them both in one trip.
Great.
But that's about how much I plan on spending there, you know, so.
Okay, well, great. Thank you for that explanation, and thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
I'm in full support of your application.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Member Watkins.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
So similar to Member Assad's concern, I was just concerned about, you know, ability to oversee so many properties, especially while, you know, residing in Mississippi. And so I think you somewhat addressed that. But just out of curiosity, you said that you would travel to one of the areas each month and twice each year between snow seasons. Why is that?
Between snow, because I don't like to travel in the snow.
Okay, just
Yeah.
because is there a
Honestly,
okay.
I think that I'll take those 4 months off, you know, November, December, January, and February, and then, you know, things start to thaw out in March, and I'll get out there again, you know. But in the meantime, we'll communicate as best we can without me having to be there.
Understood. Just a personal
Yeah, that's
preference.
what
I don't particularly care for
Yeah,
the snow
yeah, I'm
either,
not a
so-
good snow traveler. Yeah.
Understood. So I think you've addressed that adequately. So thank you for that, and I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to support your application.
Very good. I as well was impressed with your application, and certainly your experience in the gaming industry has been quite a long road, and appreciate you continuing to be involved, and certainly being involved in the Nevada gaming industry. We're happy to have you, and I'm happy to support your application as well. So unless Mr. McGinnis, if you had anything else to add, we'd be ready for a motion.
Nothing further.
Very good. Motion on this matter?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Hendrick. I move to recommend approval of non-restricted agenda item number 9 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert.
Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you
for
very
your
much.
consideration. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. Good luck to you. That concludes our non-restricted items, and our agenda has the restricted matters scheduled for 11 o'clock. So we will be in recess until 11 a.m. to come back with our restricted agenda. Back on the record, it's 11 a.m. and this is the time scheduled on the agenda for our restricted items for today. Before we begin, I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome and congratulate George Marcantonis on your appointment to the Nevada Gaming Commission. Thank you for being with us today. We wish you the best of luck and we appreciate you being here, and congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's proceed, Madam Secretary, with restricted item number 1.
Would you like to do our consent agenda first?
That even sounds better. Let's do that. Let's start with the consent agenda if we can. Thank you.
Restricted number 9 is the application of Shivsai LLC for licensure to receive a percentage of gaming revenue from United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies, doing business at 7-Eleven store number 29663. It is also the application of Pooja Hirpara for licensure as a member and manager. Restricted number 10 is the application of Sasso Concepts Limited to issue membership interest as noted on the agenda. It is also the application of David W. Park LLC for registration as a holding company and for finding of suitability of David Wallace Park as a member and manager. It is also the application of David W. Park LLC for licensure as a member. Lastly, you have the application for Sasso Concepts Limited to issue an option to David W. Park LLC pursuant to the membership interest subscription and option agreement. Restricted number 11 is the application of Winners Gaming Inc. doing business at Damani Ranch Marketplace for restricted gaming license. Restricted number 12 is the application of United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies, doing business at 7-Eleven store number 15478 for restricted gaming license. Restricted number 13 is the application of United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies, doing business at Abby's Highway 40 for restricted gaming license.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Secretary. These matters all on the consent agenda are ones that didn't have any items of concern or areas of interest on any of the matters. They're generally routine. I didn't have any questions on any of these items, number 9 through 13. Did any of the board members have questions or comments regarding items on the consent agenda?
I do not. Thank you.
None for me either, Chair.
Very good. And with that, we have waived appearances of the applicants based on the routine nature of these items, and therefore I would accept a motion on the restricted consent agenda at this time.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Hendrick. I would move to recommend approval of restricted items on the agenda number 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert with conditions on 9 and 11. The condition on number 9 reads as follows: if an equity owner is no longer functioning as a key employee for this location, a key employee application must be filed within 60 days and thereafter be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying that position. With respect to number 11, the surveillance system and or mirrors must be inspected and approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board Enforcement Division within 60 days of issuance of the state gaming license and thereafter be maintained at or above the standard that is approved.
Very good. Unless there's questions or comments regarding the items or the proposed conditions, we will go ahead and take a vote. Madam Secretary?
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes. That then brings us now to restricted item number 1.
Restricted number 1 is the application of Artesian Partners LLC for a transfer of interest as noted on the agenda.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Secretary. Jeff Donato here with the applicants. Joining us today from Carson City is Mr. Reardon, and joining us today in person is Mrs. Noble. She is the one that is to be acquiring the 100% interest in the company. So she did fly in this morning because of the nature of the application with some gaming violations. So she thought it was important to be here today. Mr. Chairman, we do have a affirmative presentation, and with your permission, I'd like to go ahead and provide that.
Yes, please.
Okay. So before addressing the gaming violations, we'd like to take a moment to kind of walk through a timeline of events that had occurred. So on May 6th of 2020, the gaming application was filed with the GCB. On July 10th of 2020, the applicants executed a membership purchase agreement. July 10th of 2020 as well, a first payment of $75,000 was made for consideration in the transfer of interest application. On April 22nd of 2021, the NGC approved the gaming application. On June 3rd of 2021, a second payment was made of $75,000. And on August 16th of 2022 is when the TOI application was filed. With regards to gaming violation of Reg 4.040, amendment to application to update the ownership, as indicated in the gaming application, was filed on about March 6th of 2020. And at that time, the application was submitted correctly. At that time, Ms. Noble and Mr. Reardon were each a 50% member of the company. On July 10th of 2020, however, and unknown to me, Mrs. Noble and Mr. Reardon executed a membership purchase agreement where Mr. Reardon was to transfer his 50% interest to Ms. Noble, and she would become 100% member of the company. This happened at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, when businesses and the world were shut down completely and people were ordered to stay home. During this unprecedented time, the notification to the Gaming Control Board to amend the gaming application was inadvertently missed. Although this happened during the pandemic, we take full responsibility for missing that notification to the Gaming Control Board. If the gaming application had been amended at that time, the purchase agreement was executed, it would have been in the best interest of the company because all of this could have been avoided, including the gaming violations, since the transfer would have occurred prior to the location getting the gaming license. The inadvertent failure to amend the gaming application and complying with the provisions of the purchase agreement not being in compliance with the gaming regulations were the contributing factors for the gaming violations. Moving on to Regulation 8.020, the violation for transfer of interest before approval. Since the amendment to the gaming application wasn't filed with the GCB before the location was approved for gaming, there is another gaming violation for transferring the interest prior to obtaining the NGC's approval to do so. Although still a gaming violation, it should be noted that the individual acquiring the interest had been previously vetted and approved by the GCB to hold 50% interest in the gaming licensee at this location. It should be noted that the organizational documents for the company have yet to be amended to effectuate the transfer of interest, and no changes have been made to the Secretary of State's records. However, the accountant filed the 2021 tax return for the company, and Ms. Noble was reflected as a 100% member instead of being a 50% member. The account was following the provisions in the purchase agreement and was not aware changes could not be made until NGC's approval to do so. The tax return for 2022 has not been filed yet, and it will not be filed until a decision is made on this application. Except for the 2021 tax return, no changes have been made to effectuate the transfer of interest. There were discussions about potentially amending the 2021 tax return when the agent brought it to our attention, but we did not want it to appear as we were attempting to deceive the gaming agent by filing an amendment after the fact. If the board would like, however, we'd be glad to go back and amend the 2021 tax return to reflect the correct ownership, and clean this violation up. We just didn't want to do anything further until we received the board's direction. The applicants take full responsibility for the changes made to the 2021 tax return and are willing to go back to amend the tax return if the board so desires. The last gaming violation was with regards to escrow Reg 8.050. Since the amendment to the gaming application wasn't filed with the GCB before the location was approved for gaming, there is yet another gaming violation related to placing the consideration in an escrow account. The total consideration was $150,000. The first payment of $75,000 was made at the time the membership purchase agreement was executed in May of 2020 and prior to the gaming application being approved for this location. The second payment of $75,000 was made in June of 2021 and subsequent to the gaming application being approved in April of 2021. The attorney the applicants used to prepare the membership purchase agreement did not have any gaming experience and was not familiar with the gaming regulations. As a result, the membership purchase agreement was prepared to require the first payment to be made on or before July 10th of 2020. At the second payment to be made at or before the closing, which is defined in the agreement within 10 days after the date on which the NGCB renders its decision on the pending application. Per the agreement, that pending application is the application for a restricted gaming license, not a transfer of interest. Under the purchase agreement, the first payment isn't necessarily a gaming violation because the location didn't have a gaming license at that time. However, the purchase agreement then requires a second payment to be made upon obtaining the gaming license, which is clearly a gaming violation. What should have happened is once the purchase agreement was executed, the gaming application should have been amended to withdraw Mr. Reardon's application as a 50% member and to move forward with Ms. Noble's application to be 100%. If that had happened, the consideration could have been paid, transfer of interest could have been completed without any gaming violations. Although the applicants were complying with the provisions in the purchase agreement, they now understand it caused them to be in violation with the gaming regulations. Although the membership purchase agreement was prepared in a manner that caused the applicants to be in violation of the gaming regulations, they take full responsibility for their actions and understand it's ultimately their responsibility. In closing, it should be noted that the gaming violations were self-disclosed in the cover letter on the TOI application, and the applicants have been fully transparent and forthcoming with the information related thereto. The applicants take full responsibility for their actions and have learned valuable lessons to ensure this never happens again. In fact, Ms. Noble has signed up to re-attend the restricted licensee compliance seminar on June 13th of 2023. The applicants take this matter very seriously and understand the severity of their actions and request an opportunity to show they have learned from their mistakes. With that, we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that, Mr. Donato, and thank you for being here in person with us today, Ms. Noble, and for appearing in Carson City, Mr. Reardon. We appreciate that. And as Mr. Donato went through, I have quite a few questions as well. You answered some of them, but I'm going to go through a series of questions, and Ms. Noble, they're probably mostly for you, but some are going to be for Mr. Reardon as well. And I don't do this to be mean or argumentative. I'm curious to learn what happened. And so let's start with, why did you do the transaction? Why did Mr. Reardon sell out his interest to you?
We opened our restaurant in January 1st of 2020 and got shut down March 17th of 2020. And the incredible degree of stress, the money, the time that was involved in opening a brand new restaurant is indescribable today. Matt and I, because of the pandemic, there was really no money. I had another source of income, Matt did not. It made the most sense for us to separate. The $150,000 came from Matt had put in capital of 100, and so had I, and then we had borrowed some additional funds to open the restaurant. And it was a number I would have taken if he could have bought me out or vice versa, but we could not, there was not enough money to stay in business together. So the attorney that we hired, Sierra Crest, was Artesian Partners corporate attorney for contracts. And so we went to him to write up a buy-sell agreement. Absolutely not even thinking about the future of a gaming license. The reason that there was two payments is because once Matt agreed to move on and pay off his debt and pay off his bills and start working again, I thought I needed his cooperation so that we could get through the gaming, and not knowing that there was a subsequent gaming violation. I just didn't know. And that's no excuse. And I would do it so different if I had a choice to do it again.
Yeah, so my next question is, you're going through the process with the agents, and you and Mr. Reardon didn't explain to the agents that Mr. Reardon is no longer part of the company because he was bought out?
When you refer to agents, who are you referring to?
Control board
Oh,
agents.
so, like I said, it just didn't even occur to me that there was a potential violation because I just didn't know. I hadn't gone through any classes. I had, meeting in April of 2021, it was all Zoom. And this is the first time that I actually got to meet Jeff because of the last 3 years and nobody traveled. So you don't know to ask, but you don't know.
Understood. Mr. Reardon, so I read the transcripts when you were in front of the Gaming Control Board back in April 8th of 2021, and then in front of the Gaming Commission on April 22nd of 2021. Again, assuming everything back then was, still via Zoom, but there was a lot of questions about non-disclosure and your background. And at the time, nothing came up about a conversation where you said, well, I don't own part of this business anymore. I sold it out. I'm just kind of interested in why did that not come up during your conversation to either the board or the commission?
Yes, sir. I just would like to add to what Anita said first, that Sierra Crest Law and Jerry Carter, we only realized many months after the fact he had never done a gaming license and had no experience at all with the gaming industry. We were his first client. I was basically just trying to pick up the pieces, and I was guided, and I would say ill-advised to, I was just trying to move on, and that was explained to me that this was the best way forward, and I took advice that was obviously very incorrect. I was just trying to go along with what we thought was best at the time. Again, completely ill-advised by our original counsel. So my apologies. I can just say I was at that point in time just trying to pick up the pieces. I had worked 351 days in a row to open up the restaurant, 300 of them unpaid. I then worked every day after New Year's Eve until we shut down. We were doing very successful. I then ended up delivering pizza 91 nights in a row. I would say that my decision making was under extreme duress and stress of how to support my family and get back on track. And my apologies for the ignorance.
Mr. Chairman, if I can maybe provide some clarification, in reviewing the purchase agreement, the way that I understand it is that they were still 50-50 partners up until the time that last payment was made. And that last payment, the way that the agreement was worded was to be made upon the decision of the Gaming Control Board to be approved for the gaming license. So I think during that process, technically, they may have still been 50-50. Because that last payment didn't occur until after the fact. And at that time is when Ms. Noble would have been 100% from the purchase agreement's perspective, not for the gaming regulations.
I appreciate that, Mr. Donato, but my concern is there was a Gaming Control Board meeting, there was a Gaming Commission meeting, and neither one of the applicants at the time thought to say, well, I, Mr. Reardon, am not going to be involved in this business as soon as I get my other $75,000. And that's still where I'm confused, is I just don't understand how that never came up through any of the discussion about your background. And your background, Mr. Reardon, is very exemplary. And the things that you've done with youth and the things you're doing to promote the sport and the things you're involved with, very happy with all that. I'm just confused how there could be two public meetings and it never come up by either one of you that I'm not going to own part of this business. I've already agreed to sell out. And if either one of you want to answer that, that's not rhetorical. I'm very interested in how that conversation never came up to any board member or any commission member.
I would say that I was clutching at straws and really, really still lingering hope that I could get back on track and potentially write the sales. I definitely had to leave the business to support my family. I think it was very noble of Anita to help out because she is a very successful real estate agent and broker. And my ski career, I decided to stop my payment contracts to open up this business and move on from having a paid ski career to owning a restaurant and supporting my family. It was an extremely humbling, tough decision at the time. And yeah,
Chair, if
Please.
something along the same lines before you go to something else, I'd like to interject to ask, why is it also that you didn't inform your gaming council or your gaming representative? Because as the chair mentioned, you didn't inform the board and didn't inform the commission, but why not have this conversation with Mr. Donato?
We've gone over that a lot in preparation for this meeting. And to be very honest with you, there is really no solid recollection on Mr. Donato's part or our part on when that information was conveyed to him. We really don't know. But what I can tell you is most major decisions that I've made in my adult career, and I've been primarily an entrepreneur, I've hired consultants and professionals to guide me, because that's what I do for my real estate clients. I've done that for 25 years. I read everything, I sit down with them, I walk them through the whole process because I know what they don't know. And all I can tell you is I tried to the best of my ability and knowledge at the time to surround myself with professionals that had more knowledge than I do. Why or how this got missed, I cannot recreate it. I absolutely cannot. And I would in a heartbeat if I could.
Okay, Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Tell me, the funds that came from the sale came from Tahoe Truckee Vacation Properties, Inc. Why did the funds come from Truckee Vacation Properties to this matter?
That's where all my funds come from. So I own a corporation that manages about 160 properties in North Lake Tahoe and Truckee, and I'm also a real estate broker and salesperson for that company. So 20 some years ago when my CPA, or she's not a CPA, but my accountant in California set it up, I'm an agent, a real estate agent of the corporation. So I get paid a commission. I don't draw a salary. So that was basically commissions paid.
Okay, and the annual list of members and managers, when those were filed with the Secretary of State, did you not change the list of members and managers?
I did not, because then I knew, so it was after we received our approval. Again, it really is really fuzzy, but between the end of April and June, Mr. Donato became fully aware of the buy-sell agreement and just went time out. This is not okay. This has to be fixed. And at that point, because there was it was a solid contract for a business buy-sell agreement, but not solid for today at all. And so we then both, Matt, I've never had an attorney since I've opened Artesian Partners. We've had corporate attorneys, but I've never had a personal attorney. So, and Jeff is also a corporate consultant. So both Matt and I went hired and obtained attorneys to work through the buy-sell agreement and to get to the point where we are today. And that just took a lot of time.
Have there been any conversations or changing of applications or licenses with city or county regulators?
No.
Does that need to be done?
Yes, it will be. Once upon decision of this application, if it's approved, we will then go to the city of Reno and file applications to update the ownership there, Department of Taxation, and any other licensing jurisdictions that need to be notified about the change in the ownership. But we haven't done anything to this point.
Got it. Mr. Reardon, what are you doing now? What is your occupation currently?
I found some investors, and I love working with kids in music. So we took over and expanded a business model called Musician Rehearsal Center. It allows for individual rooms for kids and adults to be able to come and play music. I donate my time and philanthropy with Reno Kid Rocker, giving kids free music lessons. But the main, with my sweat equity, managed to pivot, and my whole direction and goal was to be involved with music and still, keep my foot in that because that's what I love to do. But also, the main decision was what is protected from a pandemic or what is COVID protected. And we've since then produced a TV show that's a little bit like MTV Unplugged, and we are working with the mayor of the city of Sparks, Ed Lawson, and the city planner because they look at what we're doing as a pretty, it's a great benefit for the community.
Nothing to do with gaming, though. Currently, you're not involved in this particular location or any other locations that have gaming?
No, sir, not at all.
Yeah, very good. And Ms. Noble, I am happy to hear that you're actually going to retake the restricted licensee compliance seminar. Glad that you've taken it before. Glad that you're going to take it again. And certainly do recognize all of your entrepreneurial spirit and the businesses you have. And so that I certainly give you credit for. I'm a little confused how, as I said before, public meetings could happen and this never come up during a public meeting or with your council. But with that, I'll go ahead and open it up if other board members have questions.
I think the chairman has covered quite a bit of what I was concerned about, so I'm not going to go over the same territory. I'm sympathetic to the inadvertent aspect of this situation and the fact that it was self-disclosed. I think that bodes well in your favor, but the regulations in question are very serious, and this was quite late. It was over a year. Is that right? Year and a half, something like that?
Correct.
And so they'll probably, if you're granted the application, there'll probably be some type of consequences to flow as a result. I wish you would have explained to the agents at the time some of the facts surrounding this situation. You would have probably avoided this mess completely. But so I'm sympathetic to your explanations and your situation, and I'm ready to move forward.
Watkins.
Again, as Member Assad mentioned, the chair covered quite a bit of ground already, so I won't reiterate. But I do have concerns about why this didn't come up at board meetings or with council, and the failure to disclose the agreement initially, along with the transfer of funds without approval. And similarly, I'm sympathetic to the environment and the situation. You mentioned COVID and all that, and I understand you opened a business in January and had to shut down in March, and things were probably pretty crazy. So I do understand that as well.
And for me, the application itself, I don't see any problem with the application. It's really all about timing, which we have now gone through. So for me, I'm prepared to support the application, but I will be referring the matter over to the Attorney General's office for potential disciplinary matter, which your attorney can walk you through that, and the AG's office and your attorney will deal with that. But it's really the timing, it's the candor to the commission and the board, and I agree. I understand the circumstances, and with that, unless there's other questions or comments, I would entertain a motion on non-restricted number one.
Mr. Chair.
Restricted.
Restricted.
Could I just take a moment to speak with you?
May I ask a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
When you suggest that I reach out to an attorney, which attorney am I reaching out to? Because that's my problem. I didn't ask enough questions.
You reach out to any qualified attorney.
The one that I currently have.
But I would encourage you to have competent gaming counsel. That would be your decision, not the board's decision.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And if the Attorney General is going to ask me about whether or not it's all of the licensees or the applicant. Hold on, let's go off the record. All right, we're back on the record. So I would entertain a motion on restricted number 1.
Thank you, Chairman Hendrick. I would move to recommend approval of restricted number 1 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert.
Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. So the motion passes. Again, happy to see that you're going to go to the restricted licensee compliance seminar. That's good. Continue to work with competent gaming legal counsel, and any matters that have to do with disciplinary will be dealt between the Attorney General's office, the Gaming Control Board, and your attorneys. You'll be certainly kept apprised of all of those matters. We wish you the best of good luck. And Mr. Reardon, the same to you. We wish you good luck with your endeavors with the sport and the music and everything you're doing with children. We appreciate that.
Thank you,
sir.
and we also like to thank Agent Marta Rosen and also Agent Peters for all their hard work and trying to sort through this application during that process.
Thank you, Mr. Donato. Good luck.
I've never been in front of the principal's office and I never want to be here again.
Good.
I promise. I've learned my lesson.
We hope we see you all under better circumstances anytime you appear before the board. Thank you. Bringing us to restricted item number 2, Madam Secretary.
Restricted number 2 is the application of Longshot LLC doing business as the Longshot Bar to add, remove, or modify a condition.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Ramsey Klein. I'm the licensee for the Longshot Bar, as well as the non-restricted license right next door, the Mizpah Club. I'm seeking to lift or modify a condition on the license for the Longshot Bar.
Thank you. And we have the application in front of us. Can you tell us a little bit about where your current status is with you being on property, as well as a key employee being on property, and understanding the fact that you want to remove this condition? Tell us why that would be appropriate to do based on this location as well as the Mizpah.
Yes, sir. I am currently on property almost every day. I'm actively managing the non-restricted location as well as the restricted location, and have been for quite some time. My understanding was when this condition was put on almost 10 years ago, it was primarily put on the license because I was at the time living in Las Vegas and working full-time here as an engineer. And when I was granted the non-restricted license for the building next door, no such condition was put on because I was going to be actively there running. And over the years, I ended up actively running the restricted license as well, and that condition just kind of slipped my mind.
After you were notified about the failure to have a key employee application on file, how long did it take you to get that application filed?
Well, immediately after I was notified, I reached out to counsel and asked my attorney what the best course of action was. And we were discussing for a little bit of time because it didn't really make sense for me to be my own key employee. I'm not receiving a salary. I'm there actively managing it as a licensee. But I did have an employee who was already going through the key employee process and filling out her applications for the non-restricted side. So we decided to do two things. We decided to submit the letter to modify the condition. And then Vicky Martinez, my employee who's going through that process, also started the restricted key employee application. And I think it took a couple months for her to submit that.
Right, that's what I see in the application, is it took a couple months for her to file, but seems like it also took several months. As you're talking about this, you were filing to remove the condition at the same time she was supposed to be filing the actual key application in order to be in compliance with the condition. So a little bit off on the timing there, but I can understand what happened. Are there questions from board members?
None by me. I think you've covered it quite well. Thank you.
Yeah, I was similarly a little bit confused by the request for removal in addition to the filing of the key employee application, but I think we've cleared that up and that the application is the condition will be modified. Is that correct?
That works just as well. Yes, ma'am.
Well, is that your understanding?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions other than encouraging you to stay in touch with competent gaming legal counsel to be sure that you're being advised on such matters. If there's any conditions on any of your properties, being sure that you calendar them and being sure that you keep up with compliance. Understanding that that's an expense center, but sometimes that expense center can keep you out of trouble and save you money in the long run. Compliance is very important to the Gaming Control Board and the Gaming Commission. So we always encourage people that spending the dollars up front may help you save spending the dollars on the back end.
Yes, sir.
Very good. If there's no other questions or comments, we would take a motion on restricted number 2.
Chair, if I can just,
Yes,
for
please.
clarity's
Yes.
purposes, I want to read to you the
Please.
what we would be removing and then adding, so in my mind modifying the condition, okay? And make sure this is your understanding. So we would be removing the condition that a key employee application must be filed within 60 days of issuance of the state gaming license and thereafter be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying that position. So that was a previous condition. Then we'd be adding the condition, if an equity owner is no longer functioning as a key employee for this location and there is no key employee for the adjoining non-restricted location, a key employee application must be filed within 60 days and thereafter be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying that position. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And thank you for that, Member Watkins. And to my earlier point, these are dates that you want to calendar. These are things that you want to have on your license, hung in the proper place in your establishment and probably in your own office, because if there is no equity owner, as mentioned in this potential new condition, and you don't have a key employee at the non-restricted location, you've got a filing deadline, which is 60 days. So there is some calendaring that automatically kicks into place if those two factors don't happen.
Yes, sir.
Understood?
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right. So with that, we will take a motion on restricted number 2.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Hendrick. I would move to recommend approval of restricted agenda item number 2 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert, with the following condition that the following language is to be removed. It should read, be left out that a key employee application must be filed within 60 days of issuance of the state gaming license and thereafter be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying that position. So that language is to be removed. The language to be added is if an equity owner is no longer functioning as a key employee for this location, and there is no key employee for the adjoining non-restricted location, a key employee application must be filed within 60 days and thereafter be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying that position.
Very good. Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board.
Thank you. Good luck to you. Bringing us now to restricted item number 3.
Restricted number 3 is the application of Joseph Yonan LLC doing business as Joe's Martin Smokes for a restricted gaming license. It is also the application of Claudia Alcostinen for licensure as a member and manager.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Secretary Jeff Donato here with the applicant, Mrs. Alcacion. Mr. Chairman, we do have affirmative presentation. With your permission, we'd like to provide that.
Yes, please.
Thank you. The applicant is seeking approval to hold the restricted gaming license for a convenience store business that has and will continue to have 7 gaming devices. Currently, the business is still operated by the seller and the closing hasn't occurred yet. Per the purchase agreement, the closing will occur upon the applicant obtaining the necessary approvals on the licenses required to operate the business, including the gaming license. If this application is approved, the applicant will activate the gaming license when the local business licenses are approved to take over the operations of the business. To speak to the applicant's business probity, it should be noted that this is not the applicant's first time owning and operating a business that holds liquor and gaming. From 2007 to 2010, the applicant co-owned and operated Red Rock Bar in the city of Las Vegas that held a liquor and restricted gaming license for 15 machines. From 2008 to 2016, the applicant co-owned and operated Sahara Mini Mart in Clark County that held a liquor and restricted gaming license for 7 machines. And most currently, from 2012 to present, the applicant solely owns and operates Hyatt Market in the city of Las Vegas that holds a liquor and restricted gaming license for 15 machines. As a result, the applicant has the experience to own and operate businesses with liquor and gaming licenses. The applicant has entered into a service agreement with AA Slot for the maintenance of the slot machines. I know there were some questions about taxes, and I'd like to give just a brief overview on the taxes. For 2017, 2018, and 2019, there was overpayments made on the taxes, and the applicant received refunds for those tax years. In 2020, a CP-14 from the IRS dated November 8th of 2021 showed a total amount owed was $20,000. That was not a lien. It was just a notice from the state, from the IRS stating that there was an underpayment made on taxes. And payments were made. A $5,000 payment was made on November 22nd of 2021, and a $15,000 payment made on January 3rd of 2022, which paid all those taxes off. So for the tax year of 2020, no taxes are owed. In 2021 taxes, the CP-14 from the IRS dated November 21st of 2022 showed a total amount owed was $47,000. Again, there was not a lien that was filed. It was just a notice saying that the taxes were underpaid in the amount of $47,000. Beginning on December 5th of 2022, a $5,000 payment was made, and subsequent $5,000 payments have been made all the way up and through yesterday, May 1st. When she made a $5,000 payment, and the balance owed on the 2021 taxes is $18,907. She anticipates having that paid off within the next several months as she continues to make a $5,000 payment to the IRS. Again, she is in good standing with the IRS, has made all her payments on time, and there have been no liens filed against her for payment of taxes. And then with that, we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Donato, and good morning to you, Ms. Alcazyonen, correct?
Yes.
Alcazyonen, very good. My question to you is, do you believe you've got proper financing to start this business?
Yes.
And why is that?
I have $18,000 in credit card that I'm using.
Speak close to the mic so the court reporter can hear you. Thank you.
I'm using $18,000 of credit card that I have, Wells Fargo. And I'm getting a loan from my own business, from Hyatt Market. That's $10,000. And I also have $8,000 available in another Visa card if I need it.
If I could provide a little bit of background or some information on the purchase price.
Sure.
So the total purchase price for this business is $125,000. Of that $125,000, she's already paid a $5,000 deposit that's being held in escrow. $25,000 is to what she has to bring to the table to close the deal. And $95,000 is being carried in the form of a note by the seller. The note that the $10,000 of the $25,000 that she has to close, $10,000 of that is coming from the loan from her other business that she made to this business. That is a no payment note until the end of the term, which is 2043. There is a 2.4 interest rate, but no monthly payments are due under that note. The reason why no monthly payments are due under that note is she wanted to have time to pay the note from the seller first before she paid herself back. So she's going to focus on paying back the seller first. And then once that's paid off, she will then focus on paying herself back the note that was carried from the other business. Of that $25,000 that she needs to close, $18,000 of it came from a Wells Fargo credit card where she did a balance transfer of. The monthly payment on that credit card is $293. And then, as we stated, $95,000 being carried in the form of a note from the seller. That payment per month is $3,483. So the monthly payment she's able to afford, the business is sustaining itself. She believes she can get in, turn the business around, increase profits. So she believes that the business will sustain itself and give her the ability to pay back the notes that she has incurred in acquiring this business.
Thank you, Mr. Donato. I guess my follow-up question to that would be, if you have money to lend from Hyatt to Joseph Yonan, how come you don't have money to pay off the IRS?
I just wanted to make payments in case, like, I don't want to just pay it at the moment, the whole thing, because at the moment I was actually traveling and I received the letter last minute. So I spoke with my CPA she can put me on payment plan, and she said that you can do 5,000 per month. So I started doing that, and I kept it.
You feel comfortable that the IRS lien or payment will be made by the end of this year, will be paid off?
Yes.
Questions from board members?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I mean, I'm not an accountant, but I don't know if these numbers are gonna square. 293 on the Wells Fargo credit card a month. That's just the interest payment. That's not to the principal, right?
No, that's the total payment. So that would include principal and
Part principal. So I mean, that's gonna take how many years to pay off? $18,000 at 293 a month. That's gonna take a long time to pay that off, right?
She can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that she intends to pay that off much sooner. Again, her first responsibility is she wants to pay the seller's note off first. And once that is paid off, this has to be paid in 30 equal monthly payments. So once that is paid off, she can then focus on attacking each one of the other ones that she has, including the Wells Fargo credit card.
That's $3,483 a month on that $95,000 note.
Correct.
Ken, that's gonna take, you said 30 months?
Yes, correct. 30 months.
And then how much is the IRS payment gonna be?
She's currently making $5,000 a month, and she owes about 18,000. So she should have that paid off within the next 4 months.
And the projections of 55,000 from the primary business and 15,750 from the slot machines, are those pro forma projections?
Understand.
That's what you estimate, right?
Money the new business is gonna make.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just
Again, I think it's important to note that the seller, this has been going on for a while, this application, and not necessarily running it up to where it should be. And so she believes she can get in, do some things to turn that business around and start generating more revenue than it's currently creating now, or that she was projecting.
What kind of things would those be? What kind of things would those be? What are you trying to do to the business?
As I've went to the business several times, I've seen is only not taken care of well. And, the machine, I do better service on a lot of other things, like taking care of customer, doing customer service different way, and then just change the things around and fill the place more and have better signs. Because when I went there at one time, it was dark. I passed by, you couldn't even see the place.
So a little bit of CapEx spend and a little bit of customer service. So not too much capital intensive spend.
It needs a remodeling also, and the inside is really old.
What do you think that's going to cost?
Not right away if I take over, it's not going to cost much. My husband kind of do a lot of work like that, so we're going to do it ourselves.
I believe it's more cosmetic work than pulling permits to move things, building, plumbing or electrical. I think it's more cosmetic work.
Yes.
Sure. I know that shopping center very well. Used to work there a few years ago, quite a few years ago. I'm sorry, Judge, did you have other questions?
No, I have concerns about the cash flow and the financial aspect of this to make it work. So that's all. Thank you.
Member Watkins?
What what are the sources of funds for the payment, the $5,000 payment? Are you using credit cards or are you using money from the Hyatt market?
Where you getting the money to pay the IRS?
Yes, from a personal checking account,
Okay.
and I automatically do it.
And that money's coming from where? The business, Hyatt Market?
Yes,
So Hyatt Market is the one where the money's coming from that she's paying the IRS. So that money she's being deposited into her account, my understanding either as a distribution or whatever that is, a bookkeeper designates it as. And then she's taking the money from her personal account to pay the IRS. But the original place it's coming from is the business.
And do you anticipate continuing to make funds that way, or do you anticipate having to use your credit cards to make the payments to the IRS in the future?
no, I will keep it that way until it's finished.
Okay, and have you filed your 2022 taxes?
Not yet. We have an extension.
Okay.
So I'd like to add one point. During this process, I came into this very late. The applicant's prior representative passed away, so I jumped in at the very last minute. But as part of this process, I had a conversation with her bookkeeper about the taxes. And my understanding is that she has not been paying quarterly taxes, and that's why there's been an increase in what she pays each year. And so because of that, they are now starting, my understanding, to speak with the bookkeeper, is that in April of 2023, they started making quarterly payments to the IRS to offset that, so that at the end of the year, hopefully won't be as much. It should be close as possible to zero. She may owe a little bit, but not as much as she owed last year, and it potentially could even be a refund. So she's taking the steps to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future to where she owes such a large amount at the end of the year.
Okay.
Understanding that you've been involved in the gaming industry and other properties, have you ever taken the restricted licensee compliance seminar that is offered by the Tax and Licensing Division of the Gaming Control Board?
I don't remember at the moment. Back in 2007, I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we certainly encourage that for anybody who's involved in a restricted location. I don't have any other questions. I can tell you if you want me to say where I'm at, based on the fact that we're here to help you succeed. But at the same time, we have to see if there's any chance for problems. And I am concerned about the amount of funds you have to start this business, especially being started with credit cards, credit card debt. How many employees would you have at this location if licensed?
4.
4. Yeah, so I'd be worried about them as well. And like I said, want to help you succeed, but at the same time, there's issues about taxes, and we're a tax collecting agency. That's one of our most important concerns here, is that the state of Nevada citizens are protected when gaming is done. So I would say that I would certainly encourage you, and actually I would condition this, that you'd have to take the restricted licensee compliance seminar. And personally, I would feel more comfortable with a license that's limited to 2 years, so we could follow along, again, hoping that you do succeed and have a chance to come back and talk to us again in 2 years, with the big hope that though it is a successful conversation in 2 years. So I certainly want to hear from the other board members, but that's where I'm at.
I would concur with that. I think 2-year limit with the condition that you attend the class, and hopefully the class will go into the financial aspects and credit card interest payments. What are they getting? 18%. I pay mine every month, so, but it's about 18% or more, 21% interest rate on that loan from the credit card company.
So the credit card company is 26.74%.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of interest. So hopefully, if you take that class, maybe you'll figure that out, because I have some serious concerns about the financial aspects of this application.
Member Watkins?
Yeah, so similarly, I have concerns as well. And part of our job as regulators is to look into, business probity and to ensure that the business will be viable. I think that there is some risk here in, the chair asked whether, you had employees, and also, there's concern there with you having additional people to support, right? So I would be in support of and much more comfortable recommending a limited license of 2 years, just to make sure we're, keeping close oversight of the business and ensuring that things are going well. And there were an additional condition to ensure that, you take the seminar.
I believe that will be acceptable, but can I have a moment just to let her know what the limited license means and what she will need to do, just so she fully understands that?
Yes, please.
So, do you want to ask the AG's office, because I can't word it in that you're. I think I got it. And if you actually have a specific 10, I'll give it a shot. Mr. Chairman, she is good with that condition. I do want to make sure it's clear. It's a 2-year limitation. Since it's taken about 12 months to get onto an agenda, we would then file the app in about 12 months from now, so that we're on the agenda before the deadline is in 2 years.
Chief Hoffman, does that timing sound right to you?
Yes, that'd be fine.
Yeah, about a year early to try to get the agenda item on approximately around 2 years.
While a year gives it time to get in the system. The actual investigation, much less than a year, but a year ahead would be the safe thing to do.
Very good. That makes sense, Mr. Donato?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right.
Exact language of the condition.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of restricted agenda item number 3, as read into the record by Secretary Rupert, with the condition that the.
I think, Judge, that they may be getting you some exact language if they can find it.
Okay, so the limitation.
Usually limited to expire on the Nevada Gaming Commission meeting in.
For the limitation, the approval is limited to expire at midnight of the May 2025 NGC meeting on the day the item is heard. And then we have the class.
Next available.
It's June 13th.
Yes, you go ahead.
I'd give her a little more time than that.
Scroll. I'm sorry. Okay. The licensee shall demonstrate successful completion of a regulatory compliance seminar for strict licensees, which is deemed acceptable to the NGCB chair or chair's designee within 90 days of the issuance of the state gaming license. This condition may be administratively extended by the NGCB chair or the chair's designee.
Good.
Okay, that'll be the motion.
Did you get all that, Ms. Secretary?
I did.
All right, very good. So understanding then that the motion is to approve with the condition as stated and the limitation of 2 years, which if approved by the Nevada Gaming Commission, would expire on 2 years from that day's meeting in May of 2025. That is my paraphrasing, not the actual motion. It was as stated to the record. With that, Madam Secretary, please call for a vote.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
We appreciate the opportunity for her to prove herself, and we look forward to coming back before you in 2 years. And we also would like to thank Agent Lombardo for all his work on this application as well.
Thank you. We wish you success and look forward to seeing you in a couple years.
Good luck
Thank you
to
so much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, bringing us to restricted item number 4.
Restricted number 4 is the application of Scoundrels Tavern LLC doing business as Scoundrels Tavern and Eatery for restricted gaming license. It is also the applications of Taylor Lilly, Blake Lilly, and Michael Michelin for licensure as a member and manager.
Good afternoon. I think we just crossed noon.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Secretary. Jeff Donato here with the applicants. On this one here, I do have just a brief summary. Just want to walk you through the application. And then after that, we'd be here to answer any questions that you may have.
Very good. Thank you.
Before we start, the next item on the agenda is related. It's a different entity, but it's the same principles. So if we could have my comments apply to that item as well, I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. The application before you is the applicants. It's for the applicants to hold a restricted gaming license for a location that will have 15 gaming devices. This location will be a brand new tavern to be known as Scoundrels Tavern and Eatery, which will be located at Centennial Parkway and Land Boulevard. The tavern is approximately 5,772 square feet with a full bar and kitchen and can seat approximately 126 people in the lounge and dining area. In addition, there's also outdoor area that can seat approximately 40 people. No one under the age of 21 will be permitted in the establishment, and the anticipated hours of operation will be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This location with the corner store, which is the next item on the agenda, will make locations numbers 3 and 4 for the applicants to own and operate. The applicants are the current owners and operators of Scoundrels Pub 2 and Corner Store 2, both located on the property at 4850 Camino El Norte in North Las Vegas. Both of the existing businesses, the applicants hold a restricted gaming license and have been operating the businesses since 2018. Since the applicants currently hold 2 restricted licenses, the 2 new locations cause the applicants to undergo an expanded investigation, since they will, if approved, hold the gaming license for a total of 4 locations. Although the applicants are seeking to hold the gaming licenses, they have entered into a participation agreement with Sartini Gaming to be the SRO for the 2 new locations. In addition, they also use Sartini Gaming for their existing 2 locations as well. So the slot rod operator will be acting in all 4 locations. The applicants have the business probing experience to operate liquor and gaming establishments. As such, we're requesting your favorable recommendation on this application, and we'll be here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Donato. Gentlemen, please step forward, introduce yourselves, and state and spell your name for the record so the court reporter can accurately get it down.
Sure. My name's Taylor Lilly. Should spell the name.
Please.
Taylor and Lilley.
Thank you.
How's it going, guys?
Hi.
My name is Michael Michelin. It's Michael Michelin.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Blake Lilly, spelled Blake Lilley.
Thank you. Do any of your gentlemen want to add anything to what Mr. Donato has presented this morning or
I
afternoon?
think you covered it pretty good. I want you to know we've been in this business for a very, very long time. Our parents owned and operated these businesses that we currently own now. My dad is the developer on this new shopping center that we're going to be located. We have been in the business, myself for 15 years, Blake 20, him about 10. And we were taught to do every single thing on the property, every job, before we were able to manage it and then eventually own it. So we're excited to grow, and hopefully you allow us to do so.
Thank you for that. I didn't have any questions about the application. As you gentlemen said, you've been through the process before, and glad to see that this one's a little more in-depth, as you noticed. Appreciate your cooperation with our agents as they went through the investigation on all 3 of you and your families. Not always the easiest thing to do, but very important for the way that we try to front load the gaming industry, as you know, in the state of Nevada. So thank you for your cooperation throughout that. Are there questions from board members?
I have no questions. I'm satisfied with the application. As stated therein, it's pretty clean. and no concerns, so I'm in full support. Thank you.
I don't have any questions or concerns related to the applications either, but if you guys can just talk about, address, kind of your roles and time, that'd be good for the record.
Sure. We collectively own the business as equals. We make all decisions together. As for our roles on the property, each of us take a day, or certain days at the locations. We plan on spending half our day at the new location, half our day at our current locations. So someone will be on property every single day, if not multiple people. I'm in charge of doing scheduling, HR, payroll, accounts receivable. I do marketing, fuel operations. That's the next application. I apologize. I manage the kitchen at the bar. We all do daily paperwork, the counts and things like that, look at invoices. Michael here, he assists in HR. He runs the front end of our convenience stores, which is, again, the next application. Like I said, we all do daily paperwork, and we just attend to anything that needed on property. Blake also does daily paperwork. He runs our car wash operations, completes the liquor and beer ordering for the bars, does daily paperwork, and he does all the maintenance for the companies.
Thank you. When were you all last before the board?
2018.
Okay, you look familiar for some reason. Okay, all right. Thank you. I'm happy to support the application.
How's business generally in this neighborhood?
Business is good. We're hoping to grow even further, and hopefully these new locations will let us take that step up.
Good. Great. I didn't have anything else, so if there's no other questions, Mr. Donato, anything else you want to add?
No, not at this time.
All right, then let's take a motion on restricted item number 4.
Thank you, Chairman Hendrick. I would move to recommend approval of restricted agenda item number 4 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert.
Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. And that brings us to restricted item number 5. Please just state again your names for the record. You don't have to spell them this time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Secretary Jeff
Chairman.
Donato here.
I'm so sorry. I need to read this item into the record first.
Oh, you want to do that? Go ahead. Read it in. My apologies.
Restricted number 5 is the application of Corner Store LLC doing business as Corner Store for restricted gaming license. It is also the applications of Taylor Lilly, Blake Lilly, and Michael Michelin for licensure as a member and manager.
There you go, Mr. Donato. I jumped over Madam Secretary's role.
No problem. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Secretary Jeff Donato here with the applicants again. And on this one here, I would like my comments from the prior agenda item to be put with this one. And then if you would like, I could give just a brief overview of what we're doing on this application as well.
Yes, tell us a little bit about the store.
Okay. So the application before you is for the applicants to hold a restricted gaming license for this location that will have 7 gaming devices. The location will be a brand new convenience store to be known as Corner Store, which is located at Centennial Parkway and Lamb Boulevard upon the same property as the Scoundrels Tavern. The convenience store is approximately 4,000 square feet with a sales area, coffee bar, and will have gas station. Anticipated hours of operation for this one is 24/7. As indicated in the last agenda item, they're using Sartini Gaming as their SRO, and they have the applicants have substantial experience in owning and operating liquor and gaming establishments, and as such, we're requesting your favorable recommendation on this application as well.
Thank you, Mr. Donato. And again, very impressed with the application, and I'm looking forward to you guys continuing, as you said, your success helping build up this area of town. So I didn't have any questions or concerns regarding it. Any questions from board members?
None by me. Thank you.
No questions for me either, Chair.
All right. I do accept the motion on restricted item number 5.
Thank you, Chairman Hendrick. I would move for approval of restricted agenda item number 5 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert with the condition as follows. The surveillance system and/or mirrors must be inspected and approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board Enforcement Division within 60 days of issuance of the state gaming license and thereafter be maintained at or above the standard that is approved.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And also like to thank the agents, Agent Jeffries and also Agent Ludin for all their hard work during the expanded investigation.
Thank you. Good luck to you all.
Thanks, guys. Very much.
Thank you. Bringing us to restricted item number 6.
Restricted number 6 is the application of Gaming Ventures of Las Vegas, Inc., a Nevada corporation doing business as Carl and Martin's Bar for restricted gaming license. It is also the application of the Carl E. Judici Trust as a holding company and for finding of suitability of Carl Eugene Judici as trustee and beneficiary. Lastly, you have the application of Carl Judici for licensure as officer, director, and/or shareholder.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, board members. David Brown on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Judici, who's with me today. We'll be very brief in our presentation and happy to answer any questions. This application was originally submitted at this location for a tavern. However, in the city of Henderson, it's been adjusted, so there will only be 5 machines. I think one of the concerns was on the application where it was stated the amount of revenue which would be earned. I think Mr. Judici, in an abundance of caution, overstated the amount of potential income. There's only going to be 5 machines at this location. As you can also see, approximately 30 feet is made up of gaming. 2,500 is from the restaurant bar, their pool tables. There's a shuffle, or what's she called? The shuffleboard machine.
And games.
So the revenue is anticipated to be significantly more from the food and the alcohol than it would be from the actual gaming. And with that, Mr. Judici has been licensed before by other boards, other commissions here in the state. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Judici, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anything you want to add to Mr. Brown's presentation?
Oh, not really. First of all, just thank you for having me here again. I've been doing this for almost 40 years now, so many boards. But as far as the not the restricted license over there, it's the first restricted license I really had. I've had several non-restricted licenses, but the first restricted license I've had. I plan on taking a pretty active role in this operation, Mr. Chair. Anticipating probably, well, like he said, it was the revenues for the food versus the gaming were, I told my staff, I wasn't sure what I was going to do because this was applied for a long time ago before we even opened, so I wasn't sure. So I just go 50-50. I don't know. So now that I have 5 machine licenses or I'm applying for 5, I guarantee I'll be way under that. So 5 machines will be way less than the 15 or the food and beverage. However, no, it's all right. However, I'm going to be applying for 15 machines, as you know, or probably know at the city of Henderson. That's a restriction I have there because I'm no longer, they say, a tavern, a bar. So, but I will apply for it. So.
How's the food and beverage business been going for you?
It's rough stuff.
Yeah. And why is that?
It's very labor intensive. The margins aren't high. It's just hard.
Yeah.
It's staffing, the people, the issues with quality and training. I have to train and train some more. Because I'm particular. I want things nice and right. The food decent, good, drink right. And hey, to do that, you have to just constantly be on top of these.
How's the clientele traffic? Quite a few customers?
It has picked up.
Picking up.
Yeah, it has. We've been over like 16, 17 months and it's picked up quite a bit. And I would have applied for gaming sooner. I wasn't ready for it really, in that I didn't really want to have gaming before I established the food and the beverage, if you will. So I wanted to see that go first of all. And then, I was busy. I was busy at another property trying to get that going. So it wasn't a priority to have gaming there. now it's become a priority. I want gaming there and need gaming there. And so here we are.
Good. Questions from board members?
Yes, thanks for being here. Good to see you again, Mr. Brown. The machines will be on the bar top?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said 5 machines?
Yes, sir. For now.
For now, and
I'll
then
be
later 15?
If I get approved by the city of Anderson, I'll be back.
Okay, great. Application's pretty good. You've been licensed before, so I have no concerns. I'm in support.
Please.
Good afternoon.
How are you, ma'am?
Good to see you again, Mr. Brown.
See you as well.
I don't have any questions or concerns related to the application. I'm happy to support it.
And I as well, as you mentioned, Mr. Judici, you've been involved in gaming for quite some time, particularly non-restricted gaming, which is very compliance oriented, and this is a little bit less. We encourage all first-time restricted licensees to attend our tax and license restricted licensee compliance seminar. It's something that can be done online. I would encourage you to do that, but based on your background, certainly not going to require it or condition your license. Might just be something that you'd be interested in. I'm personally going to, I'm personally going to take it myself next month.
I want to take it.
Good, good. So
I
we'll
like to train people.
yeah, good. I think it's a great idea. And someone here with the board can give your attorney or you the information on when the next course is. I believe it's in June and easy to take. So encourage you to do that. And
we'll be done. That will be done.
Good. Thank you. And with that, I would entertain a motion on restricted item number 6.
Thank you, Chairman Hendrick. I would move to recommend approval of restricted agenda item number 6 as stated by Secretary Rupert.
Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Thank you all very much. And we also both wanted to thank Agent Jones. She's been wonderful to work with.
Yeah, Katie Jones has been wonderful. She's still here.
Perfect. Thank you. Bringing us to restricted item number 7.
Restricted number 7 is the application of 29662 Inc. doing business as 7-Eleven store number 29662 for a restricted gaming license. It is also the applications of Harvinder Gill and Harinder Gill for licensure as an officer, director, and shareholder.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Secretary Jeff Donato here with joining me today by Zoom should be Mr. Gill.
Good afternoon, I'm here.
Okay. And before beginning, we just want to take a moment to let you know we appreciate you allowing Mr. Gill to attend by phone or Zoom as he is in Dallas for a work meeting, and also waiving the appearance of Mrs. Gill. If you would like, I could provide just some information about the location, or we can go right to questions, whatever you prefer.
If you don't mind, do a minute or two on the location.
Okay. This location is an existing 7-Eleven convenience store that has a gas station and 7 gaming devices. Being an existing location, the applicants took over the operations of the business on or about June 9th of 2022. Since the gaming license for the store is held by CGT, the applicants were able to keep the gaming operational at the store under a space lease agreement when they took over the operations. The applicants are still on a space lease and collecting a fixed fee per month for gaming. If this application is approved, however, the gaming license will be held by the applicants. Although the applicants, if approved, would hold the gaming license for the store, they have entered into a participation agreement with CGT to still be their SRO. The applicants own and operate 14 7-Eleven convenience stores, and they currently hold the gaming licenses for 12 of the locations. If this application for this item and the next item on the agenda, item number 8 for 7-Eleven store number 41270 are approved, the applicants would then hold the gaming licenses for all 14 locations. With that, we request your favorable recommendation on this application and here to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions from board members?
No questions. Thank you.
Member Watkins?
I don't have any questions or concerns, and I'm happy to support this application.
Thank you.
My question for Mr. Gill is, first of all, congratulations on the number of locations you have and the success you've had. My question is it becoming too much for you to actively comply with all the rules and regulations of local city, county, state, and federal requirements, both gaming and non-gaming, as well as actually running your business, do you have enough staff and enough time to accomplish all those functions?
First of all, thank you for allowing me to be attending the meeting over the phone. And I'm actually blessed to be growing in Las Vegas with all your support. It is always difficult to run a 24-hour business, but as I continue to add more sites, I keep on hiring more members to my team. And I permanently always have a Jeff on my side to help me with all the regulations and licensing process. So we're in good hands, and I enjoy working. I started working in a 7-Eleven when I was 15, and I've been going ever since. And this is something that I like to do because of my passion. So I don't get tired of it. I enjoy it.
Very good. Thank you for that explanation, and certainly appreciate you adding on more people. Sometimes that's hard to do because of the expense involved, but very important to do in terms of compliance as you get more and more locations. So that's well appreciated. And with that, I didn't have anything else. I was really just more interested in the time you've devoted to it and the staff you've devoted to it. So thank you for your answer, and thank you for appearing by phone while you are out of the state. If there's no other questions or comments, I would take a motion on restricted item number 7.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I would move to recommend approval of restricted agenda item number 7 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert with the following condition: that the general manager and each zone manager of the Harvinder Singh and Harinder Kaur Gill affiliated restricted gaming companies must file key employee applications within 60 days of this condition approval, and thereafter must be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying these positions. Second, upon the addition or removal of any general manager or zone manager position, a new organization chart for the Harvinder Singh Gill and Harinder Kaur Gill affiliated restricted gaming companies must be submitted and administratively approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board Chair or the Chair's designee. Further, no zone manager may supervise more than 8 locations without the administrative approval of the Nevada Gaming Control Board Chair or the Chair's designee.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye, that motion passes. Bringing us to restricted item number 8.
Restricted number 8 is the application of 41270 Inc. doing business as 7-Eleven store number 41270 for a restricted gaming license. It is also the applications of Harvinder Gill and Harinder Gill for licensure as an officer, director, and shareholder.
Mr. Donato.
You again, promise this is my last one for the day. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Secretary. Jeff Donato here with Mr. Gill, who is on the phone with us, as previously indicated in the last agenda item. This store is a little bit different. So it was a brand new store. So if I can get just a brief moment to kind of walk you through that, then we could answer any questions that you have.
Please proceed.
Okay. This location is a brand new 7-Eleven convenience store that has a gas station and currently no gaming at the location. The applicants opened the store on or about December 7th of 2022 and have been operating without gaming. If this application is approved, the gaming license will be held by the applicants and the gaming operations for the 5 devices will commence at the store. Although the applicants, if approved, would hold the gaming license for the store, they would still be using Century Gaming under a participation agreement. As indicated in the prior agenda item, the applicant owns 14 convenience stores. And if they are approved today if they're approved for these 2 locations, it would make them 14 that they hold the gaming licenses for. These applications for this item and the prior item on the agenda are approved. Sorry. With that, we're here to answer any questions. It's been a long day.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
No question. I'm just curious of why only 5 machines?
Harvey, you would like to answer that question on why there's 5 machines at this store versus?
You know, it's what we've noticed from the past when we open a new location. The gaming is generally very, very slow in the beginning because not that many people know that we have it. So five machines make a good enough presence that our clients will know that we have the gaming in the store, but at the same time, keep our expenses low so we don't go up to 7 machines unless the gaming really picks up and requires us to, by the demand, to add more machines. So we try to keep it around 5. However, certain locations, if the gaming is not as active, then we reduce a number of machines and we stay at around 4 machines. So it kind of varies from location to location.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Watkins?
I don't have any questions or concern regarding this application. Happy to support it. Thank you.
Just to confirm, Mr. Donato, you mentioned that this would bring the total to 14. Is it 14 for Mr. Gill, but only 13 for Ms. Gill?
No, so they operate they operate each of the stores under a separate entity, and those entities are owned 100% jointly by the both of them. So it would be, I'm sorry, clarification. I just remembered 13. You're correct. 13 are owned jointly 100% by the both of them. There's one location that Mr. Gill owns under a separate entity that he is 100% only. So you're correct for clarifying. Thank you for that. 14 locations for Mr. Gill, 13 for Mrs. Gill.
Very good. That'll keep the record straight. Thank you. I didn't have anything else. I would entertain a motion for restricted item number 8.
Thank you, Chairman Hendrick. I would move to recommend approval of restricted item number 8 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert with the following condition: that the general manager and each zone manager of the Harvinder Singh and Harinder Kaur Gill affiliated restricted gaming companies must file key employee applications within 60 days of this condition approval, and thereafter must be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying these positions. In addition, upon the addition or removal of any general manager or zone manager position, a new organization chart for the Harvinder Singh Gill and Harinder Kaur Gill affiliated restricted gaming companies must be submitted and administratively approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee. Further, no zone manager may supervise more than 8 locations without the administrative approval of the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee.
Very good. Madam Secretary?
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Donato.
much. I'd like to thank Agent Jeffries for her work on both of the applications for these 2 convenience stores.
Very good. And thank you, Mr. Gill.
Thank you very
The
much.
rest of our items were on the consent agenda, so we don't need to deal with those. We move straight in then, I believe, to the second public comment. Madam Secretary?
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters. As stated at the time of the public comment section at the beginning of the meeting, anyone wishing to address the board may do so at this time. Comments by each person are limited to 3 minutes as a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. If board members ask questions of the speaker, the time needed to address those questions will not count against the speaker's 3-minute time period. If speakers have any handouts or written copies of verbal comments to provide for the record, please hand them to the enforcement agent seated to your left in Las Vegas or seated behind you in Carson City.
Pursuant to state open meeting law, matters brought to the board's attention during public comment cannot be acted upon, but we are happy to hear comments from the public as well as members of the board at this time. Let's first go to Carson City. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to make public comment this afternoon? Seeing none, is there anyone here in Las Vegas wishing to make public comment this afternoon?
I would like to just reiterate, since Jose Torres was not here this morning, when we recognized him for his service to the board and to the commission, and also for his service to the country. He was in the Army, served in Afghanistan, and we owe you a great debt of gratitude, Jose. Thank you for all you do for us and for our country.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jose.
Very good. If there's no other public comment, that would conclude closes the public comment section, first of all, and then concludes our regularly scheduled Nevada Gaming Control Board meeting for the month of May 2023. Thank you for all attending in person or virtually today. We are adjourned.